Hi everyone, Temporal here, and today we are going to be reviewing the match between the Florida Mayhem and the Shanghai Dragons. This was the semifinals, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at how they did here. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that helps out quite a bit. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like for coaching, see what other sort of events we have coming up. Let me know which matches, which players you'd like reviewed by a professional coach, all those things. Okay, so let's first see what they actually roll out on here. Okay, there's our rollouts. We're really just looking at standard McCree brawls on either side. Obviously the first interesting thing about that is after Dallas's success with Sim, we haven't seen Sim for every team take over everywhere. So that's, of course, the first interesting piece. The second interesting piece is always going to be, okay, who's completing the rotation a little bit better? What are they doing differently, etc. So see here, Dragons are just going up for the full high ground control, it looks like, leaving perhaps their Mei behind to get a wall, maybe. These guys look like in general they've been a little slower with their rotation. And they want to send Gargoyle out this way. Sending Gargoyle out this way to perhaps get this off angle doesn't really help. Usually, what you'll sometimes see is you'll see the double boop stuff, where you'll see the Diva plus the Lucio going for a boop there. Slime's not really in the spot to do that yet. Gargoyle is really too early to be doing it, so not going to be seeing that. Instead, he's just going to get to the high ground early, and he's not really going to be able to maintain that. Does get there. So they do get a concave on Mayhem first, which is kind of cool. They are able to get Slime and Gargoyle up here, and Slime has his boop, and on Gargoyle's next boosters, which, it's not a long cooldown, they'll be able to potentially make a play. On the other hand, the Dragons are a lot closer to being here than Florida's backline is. So let's see exactly how this does play out. There's the boop, but there's no follow-up. Yeah, Gargoyle doesn't then have the boop follow-up ready. That's what I expected to happen, and now they're surrendering it, and they're not going to be able to keep OG up there. Right. Without the double boop, there's just not enough strength. You can't go boop, 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 boop. It's got to be boop, 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 boop. Like, that's how you've got to get the knockoffs on this bridge. Okay, that gives Dragons the strong initial positioning. The Mei wall has come out, and their Mayhem are just going to have to wait for another tempo option. Do I like Void dropping down there? On the one hand, Void there gets cover, which is good, because the thing that you run into was high ground frequently gives you cover, but high ground here is not cover for a Diva. A Diva can't squat in her mech to hide herself here from these guys. They can't see her, and her range isn't super effective. She can't just keep DM up this whole time. So if Void's going to maintain an off angle, he sort of has to be dropped. I probably would have actually preferred hey, if you're going to go do that, maybe we go over here, but you'd have to commit boosters for that, and even with a short cancel, you're still going to face some cooldown. So, dropping there, okay. Definitely didn't need to be dropped on the point for lock status yet. That's still 5 seconds out. Really? You're going to get baited into that team? I don't like that. So, oh, that's going to be way too big a rewind. No, it's not too big a rewind. Okay, then we'll watch it one more time. Interesting how the settings in the Overwatch League replay save when they don't in the game client frequently. Okay, so I don't love this because what we run into... Oh, I don't have my Epic Pen open. What we run into is OG is here, and that might look like, we can all commit on OG, and you can all commit on OG, but to commit on OG, you're going to mostly give up the high ground. Your BAP could maintain it, but you're going to mostly give up the high ground, and you're going to give these guys a chance to now have their concave on you. So we're giving up high ground advantage if we're the Shanghai Dragons to go, we're going to try to run over OG. But that then lets them have a nice concave over here into you as you're running over OG. Like before they dropped it was, hey, we've got this sort of spread here with high ground, and then from the dragons we're sort of getting, or excuse me, from mayhem we're sort of getting this. So like dragons had the better position. Mayhem do this, which looks like they're putting their Rhine at risk, and they are putting their Rhine at some degree of risk. Don't get me wrong. Like, he is accessible. Everyone can try to, what I call, overrun him, run him over pretty darn quickly. They can go for it. We're going to play fast. We're going to go run at him, run him over. Our Diva gets behind him, gets to shoot him in the back. Our Rhine will get to shoot at him. Our McCree shoots him. Everyone gets to go at him. And oh, this will be great. He doesn't have enough peel for him. And he's not going to have enough peel for him. Gargoyle will probably come in here and try to protect him, etc. But we do get a lot of opportunity to punch back with the concave from here as they run, and we've given up our own poke concave to do so. So this is kind of anyone's game, which is sort of anyone's game isn't as good as Dragons should be able to get. Dragons should be able to take better than an anyone's game fight when they had the high ground advantage like that. But they're going to take this. Mayhem's going to want that wall back. They kind of walled themselves. I expect that to go down immediately. Is that not Mayhem's wall? It's not Mayhem's wall. Oh my goodness, the wall colors are so bad in this. I'm to believe that that is Fleda's wall. Really? It looks... Really? That's the dragon's wall? Not... Okay. Okay, fine. There's the counter wall. Got the DMAC. Okay. So they're able to do it, and if we talk about how they did it, we obviously had nothing too wild here. It wasn't like, oh my god, they're definitely going to lose. We just talked about they threw that more into coin flip territory than we would have expected. And this is first fight on Koth, and first fight on Koth is always really important. I won't go over this level of detail on every fight, but here we are. Thank you, Nordstrom. Thank you. Okay, so they drop. They use their wall as part of their overrun play. They're clearly trying hard for this Reinhardt punish. Slime does a good job of getting over there and going, hey, how can I peel? Gargoyle gets around it. Yaki should be answering with wall. I'm surprised at how long it's taking Yaki's counter wall to come up, because a counter wall just to break aggression would have been huge. Like a wall that blocks out lip, a wall that's over here and makes these guys go around. Like, I'm surprised how long it is taking Yaki to get a counter wall off here, given that the play was sort of obvious what was coming from Dragons here. Like, we all knew that Dragons was just going to run over them as soon as we saw Dragons' movement. That Dragons even got the first wall isn't surprising, but it should have been that with the walls. Instead, it looks like they're trying to weather. They think they're okay. They're just weathering with the Lucio play, the Diva play, the Reinhardt shield. And they lose their barrier. And this wall is just so slow to come out from Yaki. And now they go, so like we absorbed this with our resources. We didn't use wall to help break your aggression. So that once we do successfully weather this with our resources, we can punch back hard and have wall as part of ours. That's not usually how you play Brawl. Usually you accept that you have to use, as the team that is being aggressed upon, you have to use wall as one of your cooldowns to help break their aggression. There's a couple reasons for that. One, it's pretty strong. It's good initiation. It's one of the reasons that people's arguments that Hey Mei is a tank aren't completely FOS. Like, yes, wall is a really strong initiation tool. Tanks do have strong initiation tools. But the thing that you run into is if you go late with this wall, this now means Fleta is going to have a wall before you every single time. And it's not like Fleta has to find a wall within a second of when his cooldown comes off every time now, because you gave him like a 4-second gap. If we look at Fleta's wall cooldown, now that this has gone up, we're going to see that Fleta's halfway through his wall cooldown. Fleta is going to have an eternity to find walls that still give him a split that can't be answered, that can't break pressure. So like this wasn't just a, oh well, this one wall, blah blah blah. This is going to set up for the whole rest of the fight as many wall trades as it takes. There's going to be a real time differential that gives Fleta all the time in the world to get those perfect walls. Part of the reason that in the Brawl v Brawl meta and in May v Bay, the perfect is the enemy of the good is the successful wall is the first wall that causes some meaningful split. It doesn't have to be the perfect split that it's like, aha, I split you guys 5-1 or whatever the case is with this wall and there's no way around it, etc. That's like a perfect wall, but that's not the wall that you are really looking for. That's too hard to get. It takes too long. You're going to miss way too many good wall opportunities. Instead, the wall that you're looking for is like a, okay, I got 4 and 2. Fine, and you guys can go around the wall, you can hop over the wall, whatever. It'll delay you guys for 2 seconds. 1 second, and it'll delay 1 or 2 people for 1 second, 2 second, and that's going to be good enough in the May wall world. So like that you've given Fleta this much of a wall time advantage means their tempo is going to come up again and you guys are going to be in trouble. But Fleta's also not going to have to look for, hey, just a good wall. Fleta can look for a very good wall, which is even more scary. So I don't really like this. And we see, even though they're aggressing now with their wall, they took turns, as it's sometimes called, with the tempo here. OG's barrier is broken, and Gargoyle doesn't have a mech. This wasn't good enough because you're like trying to aggress in with your wall. You like greeted your wall and didn't use it to defend, and now you're trying to aggress in on it. But like the dragons aren't low on resources. The dragons are fine on resources. Now the one thing is I believe Mayhem do still have their lamp, but that's not even good. Having your lamp if you've lost your Diva mech isn't really a good trade. They have their lamp, so they'll be able to aggress with a combination of, hey, we're going to use our wall plus our lamp, and like that's pretty powerful aggression there. That's more than you usually have for your counterpunch necessarily, but it's not really better than, hey, we used our wall to help break yours, but we kept our players, and maybe we traded out each other's lamps and your aggression, all that stuff. Like they held on to this and their lamp too hard to try to have it for their counterpunch rather than softening the blow that was incoming and just, sort of done the natural, okay, which of us comes ahead in this aggression? Oh, you guys lost more health, we lost more health, we both used lamp, or we both used wall, but we didn't have to use lamp, or we both used lamp and wall, but we still have amp. Okay, we're going to aggress now. We're going to counterpunch now. That's more what you'd expect, and that's not what happened. So this is really just bad driving. I don't particularly like what we got out of Yaki here. And I don't particularly like that I believe that we've lost the mech without the lamp coming out to protect it either. Yep. And sure, now you've got the lamp out of dragons, and that's potentially a good sign. That's potentially a good sign. Fate's in some trouble. They break aggression, so they're using their lamp to defend themselves. They're using their Lucio boop to break the aggression. And what they're doing almost certainly is they're saying, we have our next wall up in probably 4 seconds now. So we're just going to weather this. We broke your Diva mech. That's giving us a lead. We used our lamp, which puts us behind, but in 4 seconds, we will have our own wall. We will re-aggress around having our wall, and we're going to just crush you. Even though by then we'll have the weaker shield, you guys will have lamp, we won't. We think with our wall advantage plus our, with wall advantage plus, words are hard, plus mech advantage, we're going to be able to run you over. And that's an absolutely reasonable take, in my opinion. So now Fate's barrier is broken, whereas OG's is partially recovered, and they're even going to back it up with the window. Honestly, I'm not convinced that the window is necessary, but as soon as they get the window, they go, hey, we got first window, we're going to do it. That's actually pretty good, getting first window like this. Usually the team that is losing the fight a bit gets the first window, and that can help turn the fight. That's a pretty common interaction for first fight in this, and I never really got the sense that they were losing, which means if we could see damage stats right now, I would guess that Izayaki got a silly amount of damage off. I could be wrong. Dragons may have soaked more damage than I thought. But usually, if you see it flip like this, it would be because Izayaki did a silly amount of damage compared to the other BAP over here. But Okay, that's fine. So they don't even have to wait for their wall. They're just going to reaggress with their window, and that'll be the end. They're windowing into a team that doesn't have Tifa. There's no question there. Okay, Mayhem now will have their own window, but there is Beat on the side of Dragons. They're setting up mostly with the high ground hold, except Diva. Diva's both on an off angle, but I think what she's primarily looking for here is her scouting information. She's got her scouting information through Hookah. She determines that they're not going Hookah, so she takes here, which gives her this strong off angle. She can DM over her team. She can shoot down people in the head as they're trying to walk in here or here, and she helps make sure that the other Diva doesn't fly up here to challenge, etc. So this is good. This is good. I like what we've got uh, Void doing here. There's the window. There's the window. I expect that to get iced out pretty hard. Where's our Lucio? The Jagan is there. Okay. So we should pretty much immediately see a desire to get DM over these guys, as well as sort of a pullback and a play from over here. They're going to have to shrink their concave a little bit, but that's what I would expect to happen. Okay, so they use their ice wall and commit again. They go, hey, we're going to multi-purpose, use our ice wall to block out this window and commit on you guys, which is reasonable. These guys went for a multi-pronged attack. That's fine. Their poke elements are both over here, and we're now in a situation where they have this. Should get a Mei wall to answer pretty easily and should break this Mei wall pretty quick. So advantage in this would, for the moment, be towards Mayhem. Oh, they're just trying to shoot over it rather than break it. Okay. Yaki. Yaki. You had to ice block before? Did you even have to ice block? Yeah, you did. You had to ice block before you got your wall off. And the lamp's out, so you didn't actually have to ice block. Okay. Void should go down there. But I don't think that's going to matter. Yeah. I want a new Mei. Like, if I'm Mayhem after these two fights, I want a new Mei. I didn't love that engagement strategy, this one. I was reasonably a fan of this one, but the second one I wasn't hugely a fan of. Temporal, how do you think current Brawl would do against Classic Goats? Oh. So that would be Rhine Diva May McCree Lucio Bap versus Rhine Diva Zarya Brig Lucio Zen. Okay, so in the old world, Bap Lamp wasn't a thing. Window wasn't a thing. So the problem is on what balance patch. And that matters because modern goats wouldn't actually be able to advance on modern goats. If you played the heroes as they're currently balanced, would not be able to appropriately advance on Brawl because Rhine's Barrier has less health. Like Rhine's Barrier has less health. DM is a little less good, if memory serves, than it was back then. Brig obviously can't do what she did in Goats now. She plays differently as a hero. Like the modern the if you use the current balance of the Goats heroes to play it, they would be in a position where it would just get outpoked like wild. It would just be a Brawl would play heavily into its poke aspects, and when the teams finally did meet, you would have plenty of advantage from having softened up goats that it would be fine. The Brawl would absolutely win. Current patch without 222, Brawl would win. The poke elements are too strong, and the sustain has been adequately weakened. That's the answer. And it really is a case of like McCree and Bap do good damage. And Zen is basically trying to fight that by himself. Like Zen plus a charged up Zarya versus I mean, really, our equivalent of that is this. Like, it's Zen Zarya versus McCree, May, Bap for poke, and the Zarya's not actually going to be able to stay that charged up unless the brawl happens, so it's not really a charged up Zarya. Like this, no, this would soften it up too hard, and then it has plenty of tools to be strong enough. Like the McCree's flashbang is never, and I mean never, going to get any value against the bubbles, the DM, etc., unless you've softened up the team significantly, in which point you've already really won. Like if they straight brawled, but even once it does get to the brawl, you've still got your May wall, you've still got your DM, your Lucios are going to fight each other a bit. Lamp is really powerful to survive in the brawl. Don't get me wrong, Discord is really, really good, but there's not enough in goats to take strong enough advantage of that, and you can't force the brawl you can't force the brawl against the brawl comp as goats well enough. In fact, their ability to use May walls to prevent the brawl is going to be super powerful too. Why couldn't they just balance to this point before 222? They've balanced out goats now even without 222 at this point. Yeah, I know, I know. But we did go through some barrier watch even after goats, and that's we've nerfed sustain, and we had issues when goats initially disappeared. Like they could have balanced to this, but it would have taken a lot of trying, and it would have been like, okay, until you get rid of it, you won't know if what you're doing is working, sort of thing. Like you had to bring down barrier sustain, you had to bring down um, support sustain, and you had to bring down damage a little bit, because if you just knocked away these two sustains, this felt really, really bad. And they have brought damage down some, though it's still higher than most of these other things, than these two other things compared to the goats era. Do I think McCree will get nerfed soon? I expect we will see either. I expect we'll probably see McCree nerfed in the next experimental patch. That's probably what we will see. But the other possibility would be McCree will go away or will be suppressed if we buff Ash, Widow, the real poke stuff. Like, McCree is doing well in Brawl. McCree does well against dive heroes with his extra 25 HP and his souped up flashbang and combat roll, but he will still lose to real poke heroes, not Echo. Echo's going to struggle against that because, the strong McCree works well against that. But if we make Ash, Widow, excuse me, Ash, Widow, maybe Hanzo strong again, he's gonna struggle. Hanzo's reasonably strong right now. Ash is okay right now, but like really, if we buffed Widow, McCree will disappear pretty quickly. Not necessarily, but McCree will feel more controllable pretty quickly. But yeah, my hope is that we're gonna see a light McCree nerf. Um, I don't know if Fan the Hammer needs to do less damage. I think you either need to. You could nerf his HP, which would be fine with me, though I don't know that they will, because I think there's this feeling that he needs it to be anti-dive. Um, you could nerf Fan the Hammer. I'd be okay with the 25 HP nerf. I'd also be okay with some form of either flashbang or combat rule nerf instead. I wouldn't touch a bunch of things at once, but something along the lines of, hey, we're going to make his flashbang have a little bit less range, or either throw range or radius range, or we're going to make combat roll have a little less range, or we're going to increase the cooldown on one of those abilities by 1 or 2 seconds. Like any sort of tweak might be enough. Make Ash great again. You could also just buff Diva again. If you made Defense Matrix a monster again, we would laugh at Kree. Okay. What are we looking at ult-wise? We've got Self-Destruct and Blizzard and Beat on Mayhem's side. We have a full ult bank on Dragon's side. Okay, so this is a can't-win fight for Mayhem. They would have to get an amazing neutral play, and they're not playing for an amazing neutral play. They're playing for a dry fight that they lose. Okay. Okay. Did use self-destruct. That was really inefficient from Dragons. That was incredibly inefficient from Dragons. Wow. Okay. So Lip got his whole ult back, which is a big deal, but they used their High Noon, their Shatter, their Beat, and their Window. And Mayhem used... Did Slime use his as well? Mayhem used 2 ults in a fight that they knew they were going to lose. They did not use these ults well. Like, this High Noon was used and immediately canceled, and it wasn't just a reload High Noon. There wasn't great aggression done around the Beat or the Shatter. Like, this was them going, we have lots of ults, we're safe, we'll just use our ults, etc., when that's exactly what Mayhem should have been and looks like mostly was playing for. Investing in ult to get them to be willing to invest more is fine, and it does put your banks in much better situations for this next fight. Remember, this was like 6 ults versus 2 ults at the start of the last fight, and now at the start of what's going to be the final fight, this is 3 ults versus 3 ults, almost 4 ults. So, like, yeah, this is way better, and they did not get enough cleanup out of the 4 ults versus 2 ults that they used in the previous fight to justify that differential. They didn't get to win the fight and clean up people. They just, got a couple eliminations, and Mayhem was able to retreat, which is not good. Okay, have better map control from Dragons here. Lip again with the High Noon. Fine. Don't have amazing angles for it. Okay, BQB gets the elimination there. That's a big deal. Oh. Knockoff doesn't get him. Window comes out. Window's at an angle where he can be offensive with it and protect his team. And that's about what we expected. Fleta held on to his Blizzard. Izayaki will have Window. Mayhem did feel the need to invest that the Blizzard there. So haven't been a huge fan of Lip's High Noons there. I know. People, I know you don't get a ton of value out of High Noon all the time in this comp, but you can do better. You can do better than what those High Noons looked like. As BQB, established. Okay, so this time they go for the first wall when they have control. Window, of course. Oh, did the window come out first, or was the window literally used to destroy the wall? Oh, double rewind there, my bad. I saw the wall first, but that doesn't mean it's right. Oh no, it was the window, then the wall gets used immediately to answer it. Where are you positioned that you can get this wall off this time, Yaki, and you haven't been able to before? Yeah, that isn't particularly any problem. Never really should have been a problem for you to get fast walls, though. Okay, Void's trying to zone it out. D.Va's flying through walls because that's a good interaction. Oh, that's a big deal. That wasn't as one-sided as it should have been. Okay. So the dragons wrest back control. Void is not able to remech there. And they'll flip it right back. But they weren't getting point time up as they weren't getting point time up for most of that fight. As we look at our ults, the Mayhem ult bank does look a little bit better. but Dragon should have 2 more fights. Either is winnable. Okay, D.Va's got her off angle. Approach from Dragon through hookah. I want to see this wall. Okay, that's a reasonable wall. It's not perfect because Fleta's through and Fleta can immediately counterwall. Fleta should immediately counterwall. Fleta, that's not a very good counterwall, Fleta. That's not a very good counterwall. You wanted your wall like this just to break aggression. Like, you got walled off. You don't need to split wall anymore. You need a wall to protect the people that got split by the wall. So you just need your wall to slow down their aggression entirely. A wall here would have been better than a wall here. A wall here is actually further splitting you from Void. Maybe you're thinking Void desperately needed protection. No, you're doing it from the window. My bad. My bad. I didn't see the window there. So you walled for the window, which, yeah, that is the greater threat. Okay, that's fine. Lip with the inspiring high noons. I know, it's helping them rotate. And that was the D.Va booster, so now it's basically a free rotation. The Lucio boop should not be enough. Lucio boop is not enough. Okay. And they turn it. And that's going to be the round. Okay. So we'll talk about that as soon as they finish here. They're stalling long enough to get their respawns back. This is going to be a second real fight. Okay, this is a second real fight for this. Dragons weren't able to clean it up. Shatter for the BAP. Bleach guns down. Messy. Just a messy fight. There's your flip, but they've got plenty of stall heroes and you guys aren't at full strength. BQB finds one. That wall, but there was a sliver in it. It wasn't destroyed, it was a sliver in it to start. And then Fleta's Blizzard comes out. Okay. Okay, that fight almost turned a couple times. Fight did almost turn a couple times. Obviously, getting out of here was good. The wall plus window situation was scary for the Shanghai Dragons. Like, that was a scary situation where, hey, there's a window here, there's the wall that splits your team, but they were able to get themselves out of that. They then came up here, and I still don't like this. We saw that the Mayhem again went for a poor boop situation where their D.Va flew up here too early, and then they know that her boosters are spent, so she can't boop. And then they go, but we're going for our boop play where it's like, Slime is going to boop you. Slime is not going to boop people off most of the time by himself. I'm sure they got some success with that in scrims, and that's why they're super attached to it, because we saw they tried it to begin the match, and they tried it again there a second time, and neither time did it really work for them. And it does compromise your positioning, not a ton, but a little bit to go for that. It causes you, Lucio, to have to leave the team early, which means that your team's backline is going to be back down here when the other team's backline is like up in stairs, because your Lucio left early to go do the boop. But and I don't necessarily actually mind that, except that their timing is off where the D.Va the first time didn't have boosters to join because her first boosters take her here, not here. She needed to do some walking to get here and then do the boop like this, or it's a boop boop type thing. And then for the second time, again, she needed to not blow her boosters early. It needed to be a boop boop type play. So like if this is going to be done, this needs to be practiced more so that Gargoyle and Slime are actually hitting that same timing. Like I don't know if maybe on previous teams the timings that they were hitting were different, or if Slime used to do it a ton on previous teams, but he didn't know what his Diva partner was doing on a previous team, or if the coaches just haven't identified, like the one time it happened to work in scrims, or the couple times it happened to work in scrims, they did it at the same time, or teams just weren't ready for it for some reason. That's hard to believe at the L level, and we're playing too far back. It's not that hard to believe, actually. But this needs to be fixed. Like, you guys have to fix this where your boop timing is linked up if you're going to continue going for this play. Other than that, we have wall problems from Yaki. Don't particularly like that. BQB looking good. Looking good. Lip in general playing okay, not getting enough value out of the high noons. The high noon over here, okay. Really not. There's higher and better uses of the high noon than just, oh, they're starting to approach, let's high noon. Like, these are such cop-out C level high noons that we're doing instead of finding B plus level high noons to be done. It's not going to be the value of a grab, the value of even a self-destruct most of the time. But you can get better out of your high noons than you're going for here, and BQB is finding them. Okay. No. No, Nordstrom. The Diva boot by itself is not scary. But what is scary is getting hit by two boops, because you're effectively losing control from the first boop, so the second boop sends you further. Like, it's a big deal to get hit by a second boop when you've already been booped. They will go off the edge. Oh, did I pause this too much? Is it unhappy? Good. There we go.
Ready for battle.
Yeah, one boop isn't too scary, especially if it's a Diva boop, but doubling up on the boops really does make a big difference. It takes away your ability to properly react to the second boop, and you will go flying.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so now are we going to see the Sims, or are these just get out of spawn tools? Just get out of spawn tools. Okay, so they've both gone here. This time it looks like we've seen a little bit interesting. So that's a Rhine charge difference, it looks like. Backlines are in about the same place, but we had a little bit better pathing for our Rhine here on Mayhem's side, so let's see the difference. Okay. Versus, did Fate use? Fate just said, nope, I'm going to just be with my team. Okay. That will let OG take more space. But then they're not worried because they've got the wall, and the wall basically means that, hey, you can't get in. OG's going to have to hold this, which means we're sort of going to get the better concave from Dragons by default, but they spent their wall to get it. Oh, they're not going to take it. They're just going to be boxed. If you're just going to get boxed up in here, it's going to go poorly for you. Looping back, oh, we didn't talk about the comp difference. Void is on Sigma, which gives them better poke. So Dragons very much want to play a poke game, and they didn't loop back here for their concave. They instead said, we'll take this, and then even though we went L6 in here, we'll start to back out and go this way, which is okay. So they're going to be looking to play a slower game with Void. Oh, no, we've got Sigma on both sides. Never mind. Mm-hmm. Okay, Lip went up to take control there. No one's really controlling this anymore. Lip sees something that he wants to push on. I mean, we have both of our Maywalls up. Fleta got flashed. Fleta can't have gone flashed. Fleta got stunned by what? Um, okay, I want to see what happens to Fleta. Oh, the rock. Okay. What they're playing for as well, it changes how you play a little bit. So Sigma isn't a wild pick these days. Sigma just means you're going to be playing. Sigma's a better poke hero than D.Va in some ways. You're playing more for, hey, we're going to play the game in a more slowly. We'll angle from here. We'll angle from here. We'll win with our McCree pressure, our Sigma pressure, our Lucio pressure, our Mei pressure. Like, we're going to take angles and we're going to play that slow angle game and we're just going to grind out a win like that. Whereas when you have the D.Va, you have a little more ability to play more aggressively because she has the booster. She has the ability to go, nope, we're going to go in hard and take an angle, hard and take an angle. Like, if you have the D.Va, she's still solid in the poke battle, but she is going to enable you more to play with an actual brawly style. She's going to do more to protect your Reinhardt. Sigma's not going to protect your Reinhardt very often from flashes, from flashbangs, things like that. And Sigma can get separated by a wall, whereas D.Va looks at a wall and just goes, "Yeah, I've got boosters, etc." So there's definitely differences. One of the things here is the high ground isn't too powerful on this map, and since you're not terribly worried about the high ground, Sigma can become more attractive if that's what you're looking for. So some of it could be the style that you want to play, and some of it is probably just them going, hey, Sigma's been seeing more play in general in this comp lately, and let's see where it makes sense. And they probably found it was getting value here where you don't see divas very often playing, for example, to go, hey, our team is fighting here, and my diva is going to boost to get control of this and threaten from over here. It's just not terribly powerful high ground. So that would be the guess.
The objective is now
See the lamp come out. We do see Fate gets flashbang there. Doesn't ultimately go down for it. Like I said, we're going to expect to see more of that. Teams getting flashbanged when they have the Sigma rather than the D.Va. Dragons have control, but they're getting pushed off. Walls come out synced again. But you have no follow-up. And the Dragon's Concave now wins it. Except that the ult's now cycled back in Mayhem's favor. No, Dragon should still win that. Yeah. No problem, Nitro. No problem. Are they hiding? Okay. Lots of ults to play with. We've got Shatter Blizzard and High Noon on Mayhem's side. We have Flux, High Noon, and Window and Beat on Dragon's side. So Dragons have the better ult bank here. Dragons have 2 Brawl ults and 1 Poke ult, whereas, Mayhem have that, whereas the Dragons have both of their Poke ults, Flux, which I'm going to put in its own category, and that. So Dragons should be looking to make this advance really hard with their poke ults. I kind of expect to see one poke ult than the other. I'm actually disappointed that we didn't. Let's go back here. Were Dragons missing a bunch of people? No. Oh, but they're worried about the Kree. That's why they looked like they were hiding. They were going and trying to find him. Okay. So what I'd usually expect from the dragons here when they have this many poke ults, when they have the poke ult advantage like this, is them to actually hold this, because this is a pretty open space. This is a pretty open space that teams have to rotate through, and forcing situations where we're rotating through here and we're getting high nooned from here, or we're getting windowed from here, and if we try to go the other way, there's a Mei wall, and we can't really back out. We have to go through this. Like if you just go, hey, okay, and now we window, or now we high noon. From the defender's perspective, it's pretty darn brutal. So I'm surprised that the hold was this far back. I think BQB hiding is what caused them to go, well, let's spend time looking for him. They didn't find him, and now these guys into strong poke ults are going to get to rotate through the most dangerous part of the map in that situation for free. I still expect we're probably going to try to see some poke ult leverage out of dragons, but maybe they'll go to try to win with the brawl instead. Yep, they do. They try to go force this out here, but the Mei wall's already been used from Fleta. Okay. That wasn't amazing. That wasn't amazing execution. The fight was too split. Like, we had the poke team fighting from over here, and I like that they staggered their ults. They went one poke ult, then the other poke ult. They didn't try to use them both at once from the same direction, but they were like fighting here when we had the wall was used and then let down when it didn't need to be let down yet. At least, ideally you'd have actually trapped them here for the poke ults. And then we dropped our blizzard here, and our blizzard here sort of keeps them here, so maybe that was the thought of like the blizzard forces you guys to go here, but not really. Let's take one more look at that. What do I mean when I say concave? A concave would be like this. So a concave would be like this. So let's pretend that the dragons are holding with someone here, someone here, someone here, and someone here, and then the mayhem are here. That would be, there's a concave like that. It would be a concave lens if you're familiar with that, where it's this situation where they get to go like that, like that, like that, and like that, and that's way more powerful than the team here, even if there's 6 of them, having to go like that, like that, like that, like that. Concaves are really powerful in Overwatch. Concaves are really powerful in shooters in general. And some of the reasons for that are it's a lot harder to put everyone's eyeballs in different directions to try to mark all of these people. These people, even if, they're shooting at one person, they can hit the person behind them. They can hit the person behind them. This gives you a ton of map control where this compromises cover. Say these guys have a piece of cover right here. Well, that might work against this guy, but it doesn't work against this guy, or this guy type situation. Concaves compromise cover. They make it so your evasive movement isn't as good. For the team that's trying to push into them, they're really, really painful. If you've tried to walk into concaves before, you might not have even recognized that you were walking into a concave, but once you do so, once you walk into them, get to here, get to here, get to here, they start to feel really, really bad until you can break through them. And usually what you end up doing to solve them is you actually go around the outside and you try to squish them, try to make them collapse like that as you push them, so that then you end up in a situation where it's that versus that, and you're just fighting each other in one direction, or you set up, once you've done that, you spread and set up your own concave. Hope that made sense. Okay. But I wanted to see this engage one more time. Okay, so here we are. It's a little rushed because they got pulled out of position trying to flush. They hit that wall, and Ryan drops behind it, and that's why they dropped the wall. And I don't know that that was actually right. If you're going to drop this wall, you need to hard rush them to contain them no further up than Slime is. So we see the wall drops, And are they going to hard rush? I don't care remotely about this wall that they're answering with. It's not going to be enough protection. But the existence of the wall is a good point that that was the wrong order to use their ults in. Window first would have been better because Window chunks through the wall much better than High Noon chunks through the wall because High Noon isn't charging on them when the wall is on the way, whereas Window will destroy the wall. So it should have been Window first. When you're staggering these ults and wall is still available, it should be Window first if you actually have both ults. That's a good point. These guys need to be hard enforcing this, not even letting them get to a point where they're here. Keep them on this side of the stairs. That's what they need to do so that their Pokal combination gets value here. And they're spending. No, they're not spending anything to do it. Where is Yaki's Blizzard? What? What? Oh, you throw it out there. Okay. And they can't eat that. That's a safe throw. So that was the Blizzard. Okay. I don't think we care. Like, OG and Fleta want to push you anyways, but do they have the Lucio? They should have the Lucio. Oh. Oh, I didn't realize Lee J-Gun was there. That's going to work because Lee J-Gun is there. Did they call that he was here? Surely they don't know that he's here. Well, they must because he's missing health. Interesting. Okay, so that causes them to not be able to push through the Blizzard fast enough because their Lucio is missing. They hit that. The Shatter is valid. Answered with... Not answered with beat? Cancelled out. Ooh, nice rock there, Gargoyle. Nice rock. Okay. Yeah, no, okay. So the Blizzard sort of broke their ability to contain this because the Lucio was split. And then they're able to rotate through before this window really gets value. And that beat really probably wasn't very good. Did we really need this beat for anything? Is the beat just because people got frozen? So there's the window. We have a window, a flux, and a shatter going. How do you not get eliminations? And we know that. Like, the Blizzard stops the Reinhardt from following up. The Rock stops Void from Flux actually going off. The J-Gun goes for the beat because he wasn't able to protect them with speed, which should have been enough. And our Mei is over here because our Mei evacuated to this side. Maybe our Mei was going back to contest. Okay. If you got the beat health, you didn't need to you didn't need the ice block, and you can't get the beat health when you're in ice block. So that's just incorrect reaction timing. Okay. Well done by Mayhem there. Yep. Fleta's got his ult, but still gets sniped. There's their window. There's their beat. I don't really like the beat. Yeah, I don't really like that beat. Missed your rock. There's the flip. Yep. Have I ever seen a team choose to push below on this map like once? It's not great because if the other team figures out what you're doing at all, you don't want to try to push up through chokes on these tiny little narrow doorways. Trying to push out of tiny little narrow doorways, and look at how many you'd have to do, is really, really hard. And if you're thinking, oh no, we're going to go all the way around, etc., well, now you're pushing up through a narrow doorway, which is even, it's not great. Okay, why are you guys stacking so hard? What do you have that's causing you to stack so hard? Do you have a ton of brawl ults? No. All you have is shatter. You're only playing into window, but why have you stacked so hard? Mm-hmm. Lip finds BQB. That should be everything. And we've got better positioning for dragons at this point. I just don't know why Mayhem played so skittish in here. Like, they knew Window was on the other side, and this would give them cover against Window, but you have to take more map control than that. Especially when you guys are both playing the Sigma version. If they were playing Diva and Dragons were playing Sigma, maybe they could have justified it, but mhm. Mhm. I mean, that's just all off of the chaining from the pick there. Sure. Good. But that's kind of what we've seen. Okay, so nothing too wild here. We saw, hey, they both came out with the Sigma pick. We saw Mayhem did a good job of shutting down the first they hiding. BQB pulled them out of position, made them late, the Dragons late to activate what should have been their hold on the really hard part of the map to cross, given the ults that they had. But they did a remarkably good job of shutting down, reading the situation, and shutting down each of the ults that Dragons threw at them on second, but ultimately Dragons did get, the point control to start, and then they were also able to flip it off of just bad positioning from Mayhem for their defense, as well as Lip finding the other McCree and getting the elimination there. So okay, that's nothing too wild here. We've talked through the Sigma picks in terms of the first control point where Dragons did it. It looked better. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Lips High Noons, but I look at the May differential, and that's going to be a bigger deal. I look at the failed Devolucio execution multiple times, and I think we understand why and how this map went the way it did. So let's move on. Or we understand enough pieces to see why and how why and how the match went the way it did. The round. The match? The map. There we go.
Ready for battle.
I would think this map would be teams going straight for the right high ground. The high ground on the last map just wasn't that powerful. The high ground on University isn't really that powerful. You've got two sort of narrow slits to be looking through onto the map. It doesn't give you the sight control that you'd get for high ground on most maps. And you can get pretty powerful concaves through the other side of the other side of the point gives you a pretty powerful concave in terms of your ability to wrap the map. It's also separated if you talk about that high ground where there isn't really a good job to back up the people on the high ground and vice versa. There's not a good retreat path. Your retreat path is either I take forever to rejoin my team going out the outside or I drop into mid. And dropping into mid is almost always dangerous. So like not having that hurts a little bit too. Much more so of a delay than controlling the other portion of the map. Hey, Semitic. Why is the point not such a fight for high ground? I think I answered that. Like if we redraw University now that we've sort of moved on here. Hey, Razzie family. So if we redraw the point where we've got sort of our high ground over here, and we have our spot over here, and we go like that and like that. The high ground is okay, but these are pretty narrow things to see through. And your retreat, because you have to deal with these stairs and everything. I mean, you don't have to. You can hop over this, but like the retreat to go rejoin from here to get support from your team if you get poked out, if you get in trouble, is a pretty long one. Um, these have bigger openings that you can sort of use, get through, etc. You can rotate through faster. You can rotate through faster back to the team. You can support it better, and you have much more ability to go like, hey, if you're an Anna that's healing your team here, for example, going up to here to get off a sleep dart or a nade through here, perfectly doable. If you're playing from here and you want to go, I'm going to go up to go here to go do this, that would take absolutely forever. And you couldn't really play here as like an Anna heal your team either because it doesn't give you enough sight of what's going on in the different places where fights happen. Whereas this, because you can move pretty quickly, it it works. It works a bit better. Okay. Let's move on to this one.
Attackers incoming in
Okay,
30
so are we
seconds.
actually going to see the dragons do an Orisa hold? That'd be a nice change of pace for what we see on a lot of maps, and it's valid to try to do a poke hold on first point. I'm not always the greatest fan because I think some of this stuff, while it can work well on first point, if you don't full hold them, it leads you to trouble on second point. We'll talk about their defensive holding spots in a sec. First, I want to see what Mayhem actually come out on.
Defend objective A.
Is that just ball scouting? Ball scouted, and they're going to play double bubble. Okay, so they think double bubble is their appropriate break comp. They're not going for the hard deck hold. They're instead doing this, and this is a pretty regular Orisa spot where Orisa's going, hey, I'm controlling this. I can't control this like Reinhardt does. I can make this a tough advancement with my poke. They did get Void here. Good for them. Can't necessarily hold this if they choose to force this out, and they probably should choose to force this out, but good on them to go, hey, we're going to be here. Then you guys have set up your Echo there and your McCree down main. Nice concave. Your Anna's over here. Your Anna will be able to keep Void up through a silly amount and do that. Your Anna's offensive potential will be very limited from here, but you'll be able to do a lot in terms of propping up your tank line as well as Fleta. Okay, sure, sure. And then we've got the double bubble. So how is double bubble going to look to break this? Well, if you brought more poke, I'd expect you to try to extract Void from here, because I don't like Void being here, and it's a little bit of a pain for Void to get this back. I don't actually think you have the poke to do that, though. So that's probably not going to happen. So instead, you don't really want to jump on the Orisa. What is going to be the weak point here? What is the chink in the armor that Double Bubble is going to look to exploit? This is a possibility. You could try to pin this down with your McCree, but I don't think so because you've brought the Mercy, so I really don't think it's this. It's probably going to be the McCree. It's probably going to be deeper dives than we generally like onto the McCree, and I'm calling it double bubble, but they're actually running Gargoyle on Diva, so it's actually really just a it's just a die. It's a double bubble. This is clearly a double bubble with Diva instead of Zarya. But we'll call it a dive. We'll call it a poke dive comp, I suppose. Probably the McCree is what they'll look to exploit. I don't think they're going to have a ton of success running over the Orisa with the Anna up here. I don't think they're going to have access to the Anna. I expect the McCree is probably the McCree or the Sigma are what they're going to try to take apart to start this. Why Anna Mercy instead of Bat Mercy? It's a good question. BAP would give you better poke, which I'd like for this comp. I don't love your nano options. It might be I see it. Probably what we're looking at here is this is a decision to hold comp strength for second. This is probably a decision of if they go into second, they're going to make swaps where they're going to go into Monkey plus Diva, for example, or Monkey plus Zarya, whatever. They're going to go into double bubble. You can see they're kind of close to a double bubble comp here. And by having the Anna here, the Anna gives them the ability to go, hey, this is less swaps. We're less likely to get snowballed because these are all double bubble heroes right here. We're less likely to get snowballed off of our Orisa comp if they do take first off of us if we have Deanna. It's probably a calculation there that we're not resetting yet another ult with the swaps that we have to make. And it's not like they're going to be super, super worried if they hold a Sigma or a Mercy for one round if they're really close on their ults or they have their ults or something for second here. So this is probably a calculation of, hey, we want to not get snowballed. It's possible that they also really highly value keeping their flex support alive here, and they're saying, hey, we want the crazy healing that Anna has because we're going to position, even if we ran BAP, we'd position them here because we really, really value how hard it is to take them down here, in which case, sure, going for the Anna makes sense. If you're going for the BAP, you'd have to play like more back here, and you aren't going to play your BAP up here with your Sigma right there. It's too close, so you'd have to play more like here. And that's okay. That is okay. Don't get me wrong. But what we're probably looking at is a case of they've decided that they just want to make it really, really hard to remove their flex support, that they're going to be almost unbreakable if that happens, and or, hey, we don't want to get snowballed, and this helps with that. That's a good question, though. Obviously, I'm not in their comp structure, but those would be the two most likely reasons. Okay. Like to see some Marissa. Did Void rocket jump to window? Um, I didn't check, honestly. I think can you do that? If memory serves, can you do that with most heroes? I forget. Like, if you do the run with here with this, or did he get help up here, or did he rocket jump up here? We can check. Let's just rewind to the beginning. I'm working too hard.
Defend objective A. Ready for battle.
Show us your secrets, Void. Did you just do the jump? Or are you waiting for help?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Yeah.
Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Cool little tech there.
Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
So that answers the question. Okay. What are we doing? Why Anna Mercy instead of Bat Mercy? Why do you call it double bubble with dive rather than just plain old dive without a Genji instead of McCree? Turned it into dive. Well, actually, what I'm referring to, the reason I'm calling it double bubble without dive here, let's advance to when we're actually talking about the comp. The reason I'm calling it double bubble without Zarya, I mean, I could call this poke dive. It's fine to call this poke dive. It, is like, hey, this is enough elements. But when you look at this, dives don't run McCree's. They don't. In the eras when dive was a standard real comp, etc., they don't run McCree's. They've run soldiers, they've run widows, they've run Pharahs. If you ran Echo, I wouldn't complain in the slightest. Though most of these were really poke dive comps, but if you wanted to call them dive comps, that was fine. McCree, McCree isn't really that. Like, if you're going, hey, we have a McCree and we have a Brig, you're really going more for a Goats era Protect the McCree comp, which isn't really a dive comp. Like, it's not. Yes, Protect the McCree used a Winston and a Diva, but it's not a dive comp. It was our core does a ton of work comp. Like, it was our undivable core is a feature. Our double stun undivable core is a feature of the comp, and calling this undivable core a dive comp doesn't really work for me. Now, if you're using Double Bubble, you don't always run the undivable core, but your core of Double Bubble is these two heroes plus this hero plus Zarya. We're running 3 of those heroes, and if you just ran these two heroes, I'd have no problem. I'd be like, yep, it's a dive comp, no question. With the Brig, is it still a dive comp? Well, it could be. If you ran the Brig and then you ran something that wasn't McCree in this slot, I feel I'd probably be comfortable calling it a dive comp. It could be a Genji, it could be a Sombra, it could be a Widow. Even though these two are divers and this one isn't, I'd probably be comfortable. I'm not really liking calling this a dive comp because yeah, these 3 could dive. But again, how undivable this core is, eh, Eh, I don't know. It's probably not fair of me, but I'm struggling with that personally. That's closer to what I recognize as a double bubble than what I recognize as a dive, which isn't fair. It has 3 divers and an Ana. I get that, and throwing a Brig in a dive comp does not strictly make something not a dive comp. But a Brig plus a McCree, and if it was a Brig and a Widow or a Brig and an Ashe, I'd be like, yep, that's a poke dive comp. But does does Lee Jagon have Bap in his hero pool, or is that what you expect him to play in this section? I expect Lee Jagon to be playing the Mercy because I think they're intentionally playing for Fleta here. Like, I think they're trying to play for it's really hard to get in. We would like to empower Fleta, and if you're playing this comp, even though I just talked about, hey, maybe the Ana is in part in case they get snowballed to second, if you're playing this sort of comp on first, you're playing pretty hard to hold first because you do have much greater snowball risk than if you just played Brawl or Double Bubble yourself. You do have much greater snowball risk by playing a comp and a Orisa comp on first. So going, hey, we have the Mercy to empower Fleta, and we have the Mercy for a res, which makes it less likely. Us losing one person doesn't mean we lose first, because if we lose first, we're too likely to get snowballed. Like the this instead of a BAP or more likely a Brig doesn't surprise me now. You can't do that with most heroes. You have to use Rock. Yeah, we talked about that. Neat bounce. That's awesome. Yeah, you guys are talking about the Sigma jump there. Um, I was I wasn't expecting to join this and see Orisa play. Yeah, I was happy to see it. Uh, Ladder dive comp attempt with one cooperative DPS who wants to play Kree. Fair, fair. I wonder if they stay Brig. Not much for her to do here. Yeah, they might get off of that. On the other hand, they've scouted it. They're probably on it because it's just part of their brain that that is the comp. But you're right. It would be perfectly reasonable. It's very unlikely that they could greed themselves a Zen and not get punished for it. Quite fine. Or they could go for a Mercy, which would probably be less good but more comfortable. Yeah. If they don't swap Brig, I think it's over. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that at all. Remember, if Mayhem can get 2 eliminations, they're probably going to get first. And I think they can either find, and again, we talked about they can potentially find an elimination on Void, they can try to find an elimination on McCree back here, or they can try to find, just we pick them out of the air, we pick them out of the air with their McCree. Those are the things that I expect them to be playing for. Void drops. How confident is he that he can retake that at will? Okay, they're spamming. Fate's doing some Orisa dancing. That's fine. They wanted the void jump there. That's not too surprising. Oh, but they kept Fleta. That's actually dangerous. Fleta's caught in the open as void is being dove, which gives a bit of a devil's trade for Lee Jagon here. Because usually Lee Jagon would go, I'm going to pocket this from max distance. I'm going to peel for this. But that Fleta is stuck in the McCree duel right now. Makes this really tough. Void might be doomed because Flood is here rather than over here. Like, you don't need Fleta keeping out the McCree right now. You want Fleta poking at the divers right now. Actually, I want to see how Fleta took this in general. Okay. Yeah, poke out the brig. That's fine. Really, your priority is to poke out their divers, but I understand it. No! What are you doing? Fleta! No! They dove here, and you went forward. That was not the play. If anything, you were in a good spot. You could have even afforded to go back a little bit more. You can still poke them just fine. You getting closer to this does not help you peel for void better. You're a poke dive here. Your poke is totally valid as a form of peel from right back here, and their McCree can't see you, and their McCree isn't by himself going to be breaking your Orisa. Your McCree doesn't need his McCree checked for your McCree to be able to contribute to this fight. Fleta, this is a mistake. This is a mistake. It's potentially risking your life. It's meaning Lee Jagon has a tougher time peeling for Void. Lee Jagon isn't going to come out here to peel, but like when Void drops to here, Lee Jagon would like to be able to, from here, where the Kree can't heal. Oh, bad Fleta. Bad. Okay, and Fleta has to immediately do that. That is not a safe spot. Goodbye, Fleta. Goodbye. What? You did not get by that rock in time. Did you just miss 2 shots, BQB? Or did you have to reload? That's 1 miss. Yeah, you missed 2 shots. Hit, hit, miss, miss. 3 misses, actually. But hey, okay. That shouldn't have happened. Congrats, Blah. Congrats. Is the L team cold? The L teams aren't really cold. Okay, so that happened, and that's important that they were able to do that. On the other hand, it wasn't all for naught. By doing this, they were able to get their dive team here. Their dive team didn't lose a ton of health, is able to get enough back from the Mega. And so now they'll be able to dive from here while their team is here. And it's not like Dragons, well, I think it's not likely that Dragons are going to go challenge their backline. I don't think that's likely. So it should allow them to now have can dive in from here, can dive in from here, can poke in from here. So there's less map control for the Dragons now. Are they trying to take advantage of this to actually punish the backline? Do you have Halt Fate? Okay, it's over. You didn't get it. That was your Halt plus Sticky combo, and you'd have been willing to rock it, I'm sure, but you didn't get it. Now you need to prioritize not getting dove from behind as this happens. Like, you guys need to surrender some map control so that they don't have such strong angles on you. Okay. Well, the good news is that your barrier shouldn't go down super fast. On the other hand, your barrier is going to go down. Okay. You do have an Anno, which is going to do a good job of keeping this up, but Void could again be in some trouble. No, you did this whole thing to get your backline in. This isn't even a serious dive from you. This is a soft dive to get your backline in. Okay. But you need to actually rotate if that's what you're doing. Excuse me? What? Like, if you guys went soft dive if we get something great, rotate, rotate, soft dive if we get something great, but the real purpose is to get our backline into here so that our backline can then play up here, I get it. It's a big investment, but I get it. But this clearly wasn't a hard dive because you aren't going after any real targets. I wouldn't mind this being a hard dive, but if this was a hard dive, this would be a you're going after Void or you're going after Lip, not a I'm bored. I'm just going to zap at max range. No. And I'm going to bubble here. No. This is over. And you're not like taking advantage of this to rotate in here. You're like, you lose. You're still mostly a dive team. You don't have lasting power. Like if you don't go, oh, we got like dive teams have a certain tempo to them where they go, hey, we get our angles, we explosively use a bunch of cooldown power to go, hey, we use a bunch of cooldown power to get an elimination, and then we try to rotate out, skedaddle out to something resembling cover to stabilize, and then when our cooldowns are cycled back in, we go in again. Or maybe we use a bunch of cooldown power to get the first elimination and we chain it into a second, I don't really care, but we still hit a window where if we don't just go up by a huge amount, we accept that we're weaker than both Brawl and Poke heroes in the ongoing battle of sorts, and we need to stabilize. Like, we need to stabilize more than, say, a Brawl comp needs to stabilize. And this isn't a Brawl comp, this is a Poke comp that we're playing into, but the Poke comp has more ongoing power than the Dive comp does. Yes, the Dive comp gets something by being in their face, but the Dive comp isn't in their face right here. The Dive comp needs to get into cover to stabilize and then go again. Or rotate and then go again type thing. Not a fan. Not a fan. You can't just stay here. You lose. Your concave is not going to be enough to beat them. Yeah, they don't care. Why? Lip? You okay, buddy? Oh. Because you got silly aggressive against Yaki, and now BQB is going to take you down. Like, that's not good. That's just him getting too aggressive. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Okay. He threw. It wasn't like a hard throw, but like if he'd just been playing from here and been like, yes, that's fine. You know, your tracer's annoying, but my Anna can heal me from here. I don't really care if you touch point. I can touch point too. You can't actually push me. Like, you can't actually push me, and if your Winston jumps across like this, your Diva comes across, my team is going to chunk half their health out, and then I'll back out, and then we'll push back in from here, and we'll be fine, because we'll have softened you up a ton. Like, this is... No. Not good. Now Fleta is trying to salvage it, and is going to feed himself. Yeah. Doesn't feed, but his Mercy, who goes in to try and bail him out, does, and that's the end of that. And now Mayhem has the concave. Oh no. Yeah, yeah. They're trying to figure out if they're going to re-engage. They are going to re-engage with the Nano Echo. I don't know that Fleta is going to carry 11 into this. Like Fleta, based on Fleta's earlier fall here that relied on BQB missing 2 to 3 shots, I wouldn't be real convinced about Fleta carrying 11 in this engage.
Adaptive circuits engage.
Nano into duplicate. Leaving point for this, but your tracer's back. You're not going to finish that. They use their own nano. You're going to lose your duplicate here. There's your self-destruct. Good. You don't lose the duplicate. Good cancel. Okay. I'm impressed with the retake. That was well coordinated. They held as long as they possibly could before going in. Fleta went in with the nano, got something done during the nano. Soon as Tracer shows up, Fleta's willing to leave point to pursue with the nano, duplicate, etc. The barrier comes up like that. That was a good job. You guys don't win in there anymore. Yeah. Like, you're just turtling up for your demise. Temporal, your owl reviews make owl teams look bad. They are bad. And in a year, everyone will think so. And if we went back and we reviewed a season, if we reviewed a season 3 thing, we'd go look how bad season 3 is. If we reviewed a season 1 thing, we'd go look how bad season 1 was compared to they are. This is it's going to keep showing up that way. Like, because we get to levels where execution is not at the level of understanding, and it's incredibly rare to get execution coached up to the level of understanding. And don't get me wrong, you run into situations where coaches don't understand, or not all coaches understand, how it gets played, and you clearly saw some of that in season 2 with goats, where it's like, hey, a couple teams understand how to do goats well, and and it can be hard. Like, you have situations where the coaches absolutely understand how to coach this stuff. That would be the normal thing. The coaches understand what needs to be done, but they can't figure out how to actually train the players to do it. That's a like I don't mean that that's a super like complete occurrence, but what I mean is like the coach's understanding is up here, and they're able to get the players because they keep investing time and then they keep working on their stuff up to here. But teams do run into stuff where it's like, I don't know where coach goes, I don't know how to get the team from here to here, and they keep sort of going, well, if we work on this, will it help us understand? If we work on this, will it help us understand? If we work on this, will it help it understand? And sometimes you're working on something and you go, aha, it worked, and it got a big thing. Other times you try to have them work on something and it just doesn't really click. And even though you know that they need it, they can't seem to unlock it, and then you have them work on something else, and then it works, and then maybe they can work on that first thing, and then that works, etc. But like, it's weird. It's not weird. Like, you can't always coach. There's it's some level of not guess and check, but it's some level of you find your way through it, etc. Like, the coaches go, hey, they're doing this wrong, but how do we actually get them to do it right? We know what they need to do. We've told them what they need to do, but it's not sticking. It's not being implemented. If we rephrase it, it just sounds like a rephrase and it's still not being it. And what's happening is they're actually locked up on something else that the coaches aren't even seeing is what is locking them up that they need to get first. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point where I was going with this is Overwatch is just going to keep getting better, that it's pretty normal that coaches have a better understanding of how the game is supposed to happen than the players can actually implement. So yes, I can make L teams look gold. Okay, let's so I should catch up on chat because you guys have been chatty. Just finished your last final today. Congrats, Semitic. Blah's done with Friday meetings. Congrats. Just get paid under the table, so no tax and cheap Obamacare. There you go. Mayhem molding. Yeah, that agreed. Agreed. Yeah, that was a good retake. And they got Nano. Yep. Why do Mayhem run Diva instead of Zarya? I don't know. Could be hero comfort. Could be hero comfort. We're gonna have to see more before I'm totally confident in the answer to that. Ziva. How do I phrase this? Winston can do some cool things with a bubble. Like Winston can get silly aggressive if he can find the right people to pressure with a bubble, and it's pretty powerful. On the other hand, there's a reason that Winston Diva was the combo for ages. Like DM is really, really good for enabling dives. I've had some resistance that Zarya is the right way to go the whole time. But if you accept that resistance, I wouldn't necessarily play it like this. I'd play the comp in general a little differently. So I don't know. They think either their coach thinks differently than much of the rest of the league does in terms of the tank efficiencies right now in the current meta, or Gargoyle just feels much more comfortable on Diva, and they've said we're not going to overrule it. We're going to let you play Diva because the difference isn't that big. They play a bit different, but hey, I don't think there's some, oh, well, in this specific situation, we're doing it because there's not a great target, or it's really important that we eat halts. Like it could be, we think it's really important that we eat halts, or it's really important that we eat stickies, but I don't think that's what's going on. Coaching is probably like playing an RTS, but your units won't listen to your commands and do mostly random stuff. Not quite, not quite. You don't really have that with sports teams where each season looks so much better than the previous. Will we get to a point where the bell curve across the league stops shifting upwards? Probably, but it depends on a couple things. A couple things that it depends on is what does the ecosystem look like? Like teams are going to keep getting better for a while, but teams are going to there should naturally be a slowdown because there always is. As it's harder and harder to keep getting better. Also, if there's less talent as the player pool shrinks, you should see less competition, and less competition should drive down the level of improvement, as will, less sustainability, etc. So, like, yeah, I would expect that you will see that curve off. Other sports are much, much older and more solved than Overwatch is. Like, Overwatch still has a lot of solving to be done, and, it's still new enough that people can be getting massively better each year. Ah, sorry, I was laughing at. I remember back when Jane said Diva with Ryan was a throw, and it's not meta. Diva with Ryan has always been good, like always been good, always. And I know I had the hot take and was coming out before everyone else and saying in this brawl meta that these teams are going to get off Zarya and go full Diva. And like Diva is just better. I know I was one of the very early people to say that, and it turned out to be true. But you can just look at Overwatch's history to know that. Like Zarya simply isn't a good enough off tank. That, and you also see I'm kind of having some similar objections to double bubble where I'm going, I don't know about this. Zara's not good enough off tank. She's an okay damage dealer, but she's not good enough as an off tank. Like DM is just so good. The only reason that Zara's at all in play now is because Diva has been kind of nerfed to the ground with how short her DM range is, with its half-second ticks, 2 seconds. Like remember, at one point she could hold it for had much smaller minimum amount of time, had a half second rather than full second between DM uses, could have 4 seconds of DM, had a bigger DM that could reach much further. Like Diva's been nerfed so many times, but really the thing that got rid of her was Sigma showed up with a barrier that was effectively DM. And now it's like, we nerfed Sigma and we've nerfed Diva pretty hard, so now maybe this Zarya thing, etc. But I don't think this is a throw. I don't think this is a throw. I'm not convinced that the Zarya is worse, but I don't think this is a throw. Diva's really good and DM is really flexible. Um, When's the last time sports ball got a significant patch? Football, and by football I mean American football here. So the thing with the pigskin that had a pretty significant balance patch in no forward fumbles, but it's been a few decades on that one. No forward fumbles was a pretty significant balance patch. Um, Basketball has done some moving of the 3-point line stuff, and they've also done some stuff surrounding specifically. Probably the more thing is would be if they haven't changed the rules, they've changed significantly how they're enforced regarding physical contact, which has been a pretty significant balance patch as well. So those are a couple balance patches that come to mind. Baseball has done some stuff with Baseball has done some stuff with the number of pitchers mound visits getting limited. I'd say that's a less significant balance patch than the other ones, though. Divas probably want to. Is listening to Jaina throw the most divas on ladder are awful? Yeah, most divas on ladder are awful. Listening to Jane isn't totally a throw. Like Jane has ability when he wants to. I don't think Jane is terrible. I just think Jane airs way, way too far on the entertainment side for my taste. But I understand it. Jane's been pretty public about that in the past, where it was like, okay, I can either do guess my SR, and that's going to get me X views, or I can do contenders analysis, and that's going to get me 1/3 to 1/5 the views of Guess My SR. Well, from an entertainment standpoint, from a monetary success standpoint, you're gonna do the first thing. No sh- no shade. Do the first thing. I I totally get it. If that is Jane, you were successful at what you were trying to do, no problem. But I don't think that uh, and I understand why teams went, hey, this guy is a competent coach. We could get better. We could probably get better. We could probably get worse, but he's a competent coach, and he's going to bring a lot of fans if we hire him for the Dallas Fuel. So I understand why the Dallas Fuel hired him. If I was managing the Dallas Fuel, I'd probably go, we'll give you X dollars, Arrow, if you want to hire an assistant coach, X dollars, and we'll give you X dollars plus 30 or plus 40% or whatever if you want to hire Jane, because Jane is going to bring fans with him in a significantly meaningful way. So then Arrow has to go, well, even if Jane is 10% worse than the other guy that I'd look at, I might want to do that because this or that. Or even if I mean you get where I'm going with this, where it just becomes a calculation, and I understand all around how that happens. Um, I don't know. Like, I'm not saying I have inside knowledge of like, oh, this is exactly what happened, and Dallas specifically did their math like this, and I heard the negotiations. No, I wasn't there. I wasn't in the room. I'm just saying I understand from a business standpoint. It was not wild, and Jane was in the era that he coached. He looked as competent as most of the other coach options did. I was not highly impressed with Al coaches of that era. I certainly wasn't, and I was pretty vocal about that. World Cup coaching, you saw a lot of these coaches with a different team, and it was not impressive. Yeah. Anyway, that's fine. Agree with Semitic. Diva isn't weak, but she's not played well in ladder. Temporal actually had an answer to balance matches on Sports Ball. Of course I did. But it's not like you play center and then league officials decide to ban center because it's OP. Eh, eh. I mean, you want to talk to hockey about enforcers levy? I don't know. Kinda. They nerfed steroids a lot in the past few years. Really cracked down on power creep. Yep. When does Guess the SR come to Temporal Coaching Services LLC with the follow up for $20 monthly in coaching? You can improve by 20 SR. You need some interns for low level coaching, Temporal. I don't know, guys. I like not having to handle other people as employees. Once you add other people to any business, it gets a lot more complicated. I want to refund my thoroughly improved by 199. Okay. Back to this. Dragons had their good retake, or had their very good retake here. Let's see if they can finish it out. Oh, the Tracer, though. The Tracer is notable in that we've had the swap from McCree to Tracer, which was obviously for the retake, but now they're having to play with it. And what's our ult status? Because this matters. So we have Flux, Supercharger, and Pulse Bomb, and we're close on Nano. High Noon, Pulse Bomb, Primal, Self-Destruct, Rally. This is going to be hard to hold, and close on Nano. Yeah, that's going to be hard to hold against. They're just going to be able to... I mean, they can't just walk forward with Rally because it'll be answered with Flux or Supercharger. Just using 6 ults isn't going to work. They're going to have to use an ult to get an ult in exchange. This is probably like a... I mean, could you use High Noon to let yourselves get close enough to rally and win? Maybe. Or maybe you try to take a standard engage and you use self-destruct to cover it to try to get some ults out. You really don't want to have to push into both of these ults against a poke team. This is hard. And you'd be willing to trade an ult to get them. And I'd prefer not to trade Rally because I'd prefer to actually win with Rally. But could you trade Nano or... Probably can't trade Primal for it. Probably just won't get it with Primal. Can you trade Nano or self-destruct? Probably. I don't think you'll get a good enough ult in response out of this. Can you trade Nano or self-destruct to get one of these two ults, or try to get both of these ults? Really, if you could get this ult for Nano or self-destruct, that would be huge, and I'd be totally fine with if you could somehow use one of these ults to get this. These ults aren't going to trade well for this ult, but if you could do that, then you can actually win with that. You don't have to get supercharge out. You literally want to get flux out. If you can get flux out, you can then go, we're going to use high noon to advance. We're going to use primal to advance. Whatever the case is, to get from here to the core, and by the core in this case I sort of mean Orisa, and then you're okay using the rally to cover your team while they beat the snot out of Orisa, or beat the snot out of whatever they can do. If you want to make this fast, and you do, because if you go for long rotations like you did last time, it'll be last fight. So that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see charge up probably charge up the self-destruct, use the self-destruct to engage here. That's probably going to get them to go, no, we're going to use something big, preferably flux in response, thinking that they still have enough. Okay. You may complain to the BBB in Hong Kong, which is where the business is registered. Temporal also has perfect ult and positioning knowledge and can pause to think about optimal play as long as he has to, but Gold Owl needs to make decisions in a few seconds or less. Yes, these guys have to do it on the fly, and you are way, like, just because I'm berating them doesn't mean that they're actually bad guys. They're not. And yes, they have to do this much faster. They have, not to say I can't do this at this speed. I can't always explain it at this speed, but they have to do this while actually playing their hero too. You know, like, and with the vision that their hero gives them, as opposed to the vision that I get. Got it. Beautiful. You can lose. You can literally afford to lose after that. Yep, that's fine. Oh, sweet! Just reset. Just reset. You win. Mayhem, you win. Just reset. Okay. Um, Now you use Nano or Primal to force the engage. You can throw your Nano Monkey over here. It'll be plenty distracting enough. And as that's happening, your core is going to walk forward, probably on Orisa. If they want to walk forward over here instead, that's fine. They're going to pop Rally, and they're going to win. Why are you spending Bubble there? No, that was the Sigma Shield, I think. Okay. Why are you waiting so long? You want Yaki to set up? You can force this pretty hard, but okay. Okay. No Nano on him? Fleta gets the Nano. That's bad. That's bad that you're sort of letting dragons go first here. There's the rally. You guys are kiting while you deal with that. I'm worried that you're gonna... Okay. OG can primal. What? That can't happen. Halt. Stickies. Nano. 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 Okay. Miss. Not amazing from that either. Can't. Let's rewind one more. You were trying to DM this on the way in. You've correctly recognized that. I mean, you can't. DM's on cooldown anyway. Why? Why are you letting that happen? You have full health. Like, get in the way of this beam. Do it. I don't actually care about... You can't actually hurt this. I get it. If you can boop him, it matters. But, like, get in the way of this beam. Go here. And go here. Okay, that's fine. No one played that particularly well. Other than Fleta. But, you know, Fleta's pretty good at the video game. Okay, well. That happened. Okay, fine. Okay, good hold, dragons. They should not have been able to do that with effectively Nano, how they did. Like, don't get me wrong, a Nano Echo with a Mercy Pocket is scary, don't get me wrong, and it is a lot of damage if it is like, hey, Nano Focusing Beam with damage boost, we're just going to shred whatever we look at. As long as, you know, and you can afford to do it early because it'll still get them into the threshold. That said, still much harder to do against a tank. Didn't have to not get value out of the flashbang. Could have nanoed to go, nope, we're going to equalize our damage reduction as well as heal them back up so that they're not in the damage threshold. Like, there were plays. There were plays. The rally's gonna outlast the nano, still let you push. Like, the ult differential was extreme, and they just, yeah, okay, good. Good for dragons. Yeah. I guess we know now why they picked the Enna, though. The reason that they picked the Enna is they are that confident in Fleta's ability with the Echo to just go, nope, he is gonna do stuff.
Score 0-0. Switching sides. Initiate
Temporal OP nerf
engage.
pause. There you go. There you go. I'm not good enough to do that the Sigma jump with the M1. Have to use the rock. Understandable. Yeah, a little bit of knockback. So I can look cool in a 2CP map before we lose. Yeah, that was painful. That was painful. They got out what they needed. Like, don't get me wrong. Even though Dragons did great with the retake, Dragons did great with actually holding it that last fight. They did overinvest in the previous fight holding. They used their supercharger and their flux when they should have only used one. That put them in the situation where it was like, we're playing against 5-6 ults with one. They just went wild with the nano. Okay. Uh, I'd have to go do the math, blah. What is it? So 50 from the nano. Yeah, I'd have to do the math, blah. Sorry. And I need to
Attackers
look at the
incoming
numbers more
in
than what you've
30
put there.
seconds.
You may have put the numbers there, but okay. Echo Beam against armor is a tickle beam. Though, if you're up against something with Brig, where you've only got a little bit of armor to get through and a little bit of damage to get her to half health, where your focusing beam multiplies its damage, you can handle it if you've got nano plus mercy boost. That's what, 70% damage increase, because that's where damage increase uh, caps for how those interact. It's not that won't cap the focusing beam. The focusing beam will still hit its multiplier once you get there, but that's a big that's a that's a big deal. That said, into the diva, you're right. The diva would have been like, I have full health. You've got to get through all of my armor before I hit half. You have to get me through armor. I'll be at half at armor all the way down to half health effectively. Um, Good luck. Yeah, if the diva gets in the way, that makes a difference.
How y'all doing?
Okay, so yeah, diva had rally armor exactly.
3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Okay, so they're just trying to hold with a poke dive comp, a full poke dive comp, double poke. And the attack is going to come in from dragons with a also poke dive comp. Okay. But they've kept the tracer, which does compositionally give dragons. That's tough. Compositionally in the old world, that would have been Dragon's advantage, but Briggs makes things tough. Brig gives a more than adequate answer to, hey, you guys have a tracer here. Usually, how you'd think about this is you'd go, hey, um, poke plus dive hero, double poke hero. The dive hero is worth more and it allows you to corral the poke heroes, and the diver plus poke is better than the double poke in the straight matchup. Positionally, obviously, you have the better situation for Mayhem, but just looking at the isolated 2v2 here, this is better in the matchup. But when you factor in, hey, we have this that basically neuters your tracer, that's going to be not much, that's going to, this is probably stronger. But yes, we have this helping this. I probably still lean towards this. And they've got positional advantage. I still think Dragons is going to win the map because they've got 4 minutes to get the first point, but I would, for each individual fight, favor these guys comp-wise, and given that they have the positional advantage, and I think their comp is better. There is a 70% damage boost cap Semitic, but it doesn't apply to Focusing Beam. There's a 70% damage cap, or at least there used to be, when you were talking about things like Supercharger, Mercy Boost, and Supercharger, Mercy Boost, and Nano. And I believe these are the only three things that go into that type of damage multiplier that is getting capped. It shouldn't be applying to Discord Orbs, and it shouldn't be applying to Focusing Beam, as those are their own category, I believe. And it definitely doesn't apply to Window, which is also its own category. Okay. They're both playing this with divas, yep. Yaki's got the Echo. They can't find a way in. Has Tracer been able to get in? No. Fleta hasn't been able to get in. And as long as that stays true, Mayhem are going to hold all day. Like, the angles just are not good for offense on this map until you can get in a little. Okay. They don't have a Mercy, so it's over. Really? Okay. Not sure I agree with the Nano choice of Void rather than Fate there. If I was Fate, I'd be grumbling. Oh, don't quite get the Mercy finish. OG? OG? Good. Can they do it too? Can they have their amazing retake? Okay, there's a rally. No Nano for your rally. Okay. Not that I'm really saying that's where we'd spend it in this case, but after we would have needed it on offense to stabilize. Okay, so they did retake. There's both your movement cooldowns, but it doesn't look like dragons are ready to aggress. Okay, you guys are defending with the duplicate.
Winston.
Fleta's... I assume Fleta's in. Fleta just got in. You're here. That's not a great angle to contribute. OG gets out alive. Valk plus Nano. Duplicates over. Oh, this is closer than it needed to be. You guys are effectively between fights. You guys are reset. You have your tracer in. Having your tracer in is a big deal. We're here. We're looking at this. We're thinking about the ults on the board. Dragons have Bob, and that's it. Mayhem have nothing. They're closer to ults, but they have nothing, whereas Dragons have Bob. That's probably not enough. Um, Bob on the point is a meaningful deal, but you might actually just use Bob more in the open where Anna can't get it, like here, and probably break through with that. I mean, this is mostly, I'm fine with this, but this is mostly just a jockeying for position. They're two dive teams playing against each other, two poke dive teams playing against each other, rather, that are jockeying for resource leads. There's the Bob. Did you go point or did you go for the open? That's going to get slept? No. Where'd your Anna go? Oh, you sent the Bob after the Anna moved up, and the Bob doesn't immediately get hit. That's a big deal. I don't think you needed to go in yet, Fate. Like, yes, you helped cap the point faster, but you sort of needed to use the fact that they had to send someone 2 point to contest Bob to actually make your dive onto a target happen. That's what I would have preferred. Pretty significantly, in fact. Yeah, I don't really want you and Bob fighting Diva. I want you doing something more productive. Okay, but that's going to work now. Now the three of you are able to break Diva. Yep. Okay. Someone will clean up the Diva elimination? No, because Flood is on point as well. Okay. Mercy's able to get up here. This is still anyone's... They'll touch. And do we have the ults yet? No, and Lip just did it again. Lip just put that away. Okay. When that matters, because if Lip doesn't get the elimination right there, we're looking at Duplicate and Nano coming on board. And again, this is what I was talking about with our ult distance, where these guys have nothing to finish this out. Even though they're really close, they have a bunch of people on point. You have, Mayhem ready to push on with ults available. That could have been it. Yep.
I am unstoppable. Game on.
Mm-hmm.
Helden sterben nicht. Dein Schutzengel ist da.
10 seconds remaining. Adaptive circuits engaged.
Okay. Certainly taking long enough. Mm-hmm. There's the Bob again. Okay. That was a fun one. That was a fun one, actually. I'm glad we got to see this. I'm glad we picked the semifinal game because I liked watching this Hanamura. So let me get to a place that doesn't have quite as much noise, just as we kind of talk through our final bit of this. Okay. Yeah, this was a fun one. As we sort of think through what happened here, we definitely saw the interesting hold decisions from Dragons to use the Orisa. We saw Fleta make an initial mistake here that I didn't like, but not get punished for it, which is important. We saw Fleta then go big later with the Nano combination. We saw that they, on Mayhem's side, did not protect Slime adequately, either with the Nano or with the Diva body, and that was ultimately what put it away. We saw a very nice retake from Dragons here. And then we saw Lip open up the first good push for Dragons onto this, even though they didn't quite close it out, as well as Lip really flip the switch to put a fight that was potentially about to be turned on them back into not 100% put away category, but firmly in their side again. So I like the DPS play. Like, again, we saw a big Fleta mistake there in the beginning, but I like the DPS play that we saw out of the Dragons here quite a bit. Lujagon had some nice play as well. Had one time went down over here, probably didn't need to. Um, but other than that, I liked that quite a bit. Yaki's Echo was solid as well. I liked the first push of, hey, we go here, then we go to here from Mayhem. I just didn't like that they didn't put it together of, what are you doing? Is this your real dive? Or is this to rotate you guys in? Like, that would have been fine if it was to rotate you in. It's a long investment, but it's a long investment to get you your backline up here, and that, is powerful for taking this point, especially against a poke team that is then effectively going to have to bottleneck itself over here on the point. And then if poke team doesn't want to play on the point, because if they do the rotation, we're talking, if Mayhem had done the rotation and gotten themselves to here, that effectively forces the poke team either here, where the short sight line is too long, or here, where it's like, we have the high ground. We have the high ground, but we're a poke team with the high ground and the bell interrupting our main line sight line so that the team gets to use the bell to get super close to us, and now we're a poke team playing on a short sight line, which we really don't like. So this could have been fine to invest a minute and a half to get this push when they were playing their double bubble poke dive, whatever we want to call it, team into that on the first time. I'm disappointed that they threw that away. So yeah, that sort of covers it. That said, this was this was close in a lot of ways. Like this, even right at the end here, could have gone either way. And so yeah, okay, good stuff. Let's let's move on to the third one. Oh, I should check for questions. You guys are still doing calcs.
Ready for battle.
There's a video, I think, from CarQ that shows the highest possible instances of damage in the damage, which was all multipliers applied to a max duration high noon. The damage was like 5,000 or something. That sounds like a CarQ video. I haven't seen it, but that sounds like something he'd do. Through a BAP window. You could break the payload with that kind of damage. The servers themselves actually took damage when he fired the shot, had to replace motherboards. Okay. So let's look at this third map here. We're over here doing derivatives in for Overwatch. There you go. Okay. I'm kind of hoping we're not going to see Brawl. I would be more interested if we don't. Yeah! Go Dragons!
One. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
So, we see Mayhem are holding, and Mayhem have clearly done some scouting. Because this is not standard places that you would hold with Brawl if you're expecting Brawl. You would hold with Brawl either here or around Statue if you're expecting Brawl. They've clearly done their homework and expect that Dragons are going to play some sort of poke comp, so they want the high ground. Because the high ground gives them a situation where they can just wait in here. They can't really be dove very effectively. They can just wait in here and not be poked. And then when someone comes in to try to contest the point, they can decide, hey, maybe we'll poke you a bit, maybe we'll do this, but we can just try to run you over and catch you on the point, maybe stun you with our flashbang, freeze you, and eliminate you, etc. And then maybe we'll reset and tuck in here. Or maybe we'll reset and we'll tuck in here. But this is where they wanted to start. Perfectly reasonable start, and they've done their homework. In terms of the matchup, we've obviously seen this. I'm perfectly comfortable calling this a poke dive comp. We can see that they've gone, hey, we have our Mercy Anna set up. Our Mercy is clearly for Fleta, though I'm sure Lip will probably get some help as well. The Nanos we might think are for Fate, but I'm not convinced that they're not for Fleta. They might be for Fate. Fate's going to have trouble getting too much done without the Zarya bubbles, but he will have DMs. Still, this is scary to play into. And you don't have Zarya bubbles, so the May freeze becomes a bigger issue when you're going for your dive stuff. Because DM obviously doesn't help with that. So ultimately, what this is going to come down to is it's going to be a case of Fate tries to like put his toe on the point over here, his toe on the point over here. It might be a case of, Void tries to put toe on point here, Fate puts toe on point here. They do their retreats, and they're just sort of trying to threaten rotations while their Anna heals from somewhere like here. I doubt they'll get their Anna to here, probably from here. Maybe they'll go tuck their Anna back here. But toe on point rotation to try to force these guys to drop and then leave. And then as this toe on point is happening, it forces these guys to come out a little to contest, even if it's with their diva, and you just try to blow up the diva with these guys. You don't have a Zen, but you do have a Mercy boost. Okay. And you have the Anna to sustain these guys on point. So yeah, I like this comp. I love the Brawl versus poke dive matchup, to be quite honest. So I'm looking forward to this.
Boosters engaged.
Why? Why did you guys drop? You did your homework and went here because your coaches told you, and then you went, oh, well, the match has started, so I guess we should go take our normal positions. What? What? Were you not here because of the poke dive? You were here because there was some cheese comp you were worried about, and this isn't it? Like, huh. Okay, I disagree. There are people out there are people who would be of the no, 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 they don't want to be all stacked. In Overwatch, the team with more and better angles wins. And yes, angles are really powerful in Overwatch, and Brawl is not helpless in the poke phase. But, like, the poke here is. No, this is wrong. Like, yes, more, better angles, it's a good thing. Yes, you stop them from taking angles by having the angles yourself. You're not going to find Anna's not going to be here if the opposing diva is here. Like, yes, that helps, but you can't hold this against them. They're easily going to clear out your angles. Okay. Or they're going to meaninglessly fight OG. Why are we meaninglessly fighting OG? Go challenge Gargoyle. 4 of you go charge Gargoyle. Like, this is how this works. This is how this works. If Ryan is holding here, which he's going to do so that he doesn't get poked out, you can effectively, for free or with just a tick of DM, get your Winston and Diva to here. You know that Gargoyle is here. You also have a Fleta and a Ligegon, and the 4 of you go jump up to here and take this, and your Winston bubble protects you because Fleta's willing to play inside the Winston bubble while you take out or make this diva leave. You have now established control of this. Diva's not just going to be able to leave to here because they'll still get poked out. And the Winston bubble's protecting you from the BAP and the McCree. You might then have to back up a little bit to stabilize after the Winston bubble's gone. But once you've got control of this, you can take control of this. And once you've got control of this, the Reinhardt can't stay here anymore. He has to back. Like, this is weird that we're fighting over this. Please stop fighting over statue. You don't care about statue. I mean, yeah, you hit TNT. Please stop. Please stop. Okay, good. So now Mayhem have collapsed for you, and now we're seeing the Dragons are doing a bit to take their concave. They could get a more powerful concave. I don't... Okay, more powerful concave. Okay. Fate, you want to help? Like, Gargoyle will leave if you help. No. You're gonna surrender it. Oh, hey! Oh, hey! It's just like I called, a good 40 seconds ago. Not sure why Void's on the ground. What are you doing? You don't need to do this yet. You don't need to do this yet, Fate. Why are you forcing this? You just won the point. You Fate! This is like Jesus. It's just so bad. Fate's a good main tank player, I swear. And yet, and yet. Uh, And they're correctly going to try to flush you out because they've got time to do so. Is you kiting them going to be enough, or are you going to get pinned? You kiting is enough to go there. I don't think you know where. I don't think you know where their BAP is because you'd be fighting him if you did.
Helden.
And here's the Valk. And the Nano? Why? Izuyaki, what do you expect Fate to do with this Nano? Like, we have Valk going, and we're popping Nano when Fate is not on a target. Excuse me? Excuse me? Because Fate needed a Nano and a Valk to take down a baby diva. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that'll be the end of that. Force the ice block.
动住，不许走！Dein Schutzengel ist
There's
da.
the blizzard. Doesn't matter. I'm not impressed with that ult usage.
Objective lost. Stop the payload.
From defeat against the baby diva. But yes, I get what you're saying. Okay. Okay. Wait, Fate? Where are you coming in from? Oh, okay. This is fine. You have Primal. It's not the end of the world. Okay. You should just leave. You have leave. It's fine. That was self-destruct and beat traded for each other. They're playing for their high ground control.
McCree.
Fate's trying to figure out how to get away from that diva. And diva is effectively been baited. Fate spends primal. Should have a good window here for dragons. That high noon complicates things. And right as diva's left too to play with the other diva. That's unfortunate. Or maybe left to run away from the Mei.
It's high noon.
Not in love with that. Okay. You're getting cart advancement, but you didn't really win the fight. Yeah.
ATM 좀 올려볼까? 아이고, coming up.
Okay.
Helden sterben nicht. Bob, do something.
Works for me. Okay. You've corralled them away. They're gonna make a stop, but not with any map control. Unless you let them take map control. Why are you letting them take map control? Don't let them take map control. I don't care that OG's there. I don't care in the slightest. Okay. You're fighting the diva. Void's out.
Adaptive circuits engaged.
Okay, they use that to effectively stabilize. But they lose Gargoyle while they're trying to stabilize with that, and the duplicate is in play. Yeah, not sure that damage boosting Fletas really makes sense there. Not when he's a Mei. Like, yes, he's trying to icicle snipe, but you can do better. Okay. Take your map control. Good. Who's on cart? Izayaki. All coming out one direction. Fine. But you guys have, like, no way to meaningfully contest them up there. This is a problem. Like, this, at this part of the map, dive is reasonably strong. Your second was where dive needed to get punished, and it didn't happen. Instead, they just tried to kite them forever. Or they tried to kite them until the last part of second, which is where dive gets a little bit more access to some high ground stuff, which wasn't a great idea. Okay, you try to force it out with your diva. They hit a big TNT. Oh, okay, we get this done on Void. No real follow-up. You've stuck them in closed space. I don't mind you guys playing from closed space. Closed space is good. So you guys all corral yourselves into closed space except Gargoyle's off sync. No, guys, like, this isn't how this works. You can all go into closed space, including Gargoyle. You all go into closed space, and then you send Gargoyle out to go handle, like, you go, okay, 3, 2, 1, push, and your core pushes on Void, or pushes on Fate, or pushes on whoever, even if it's a mobile tank. And while that's happening, your Gargoyle goes and specifically looks to challenge, in most cases, Fleta. Specifically to go, I'm going to block out Fleta for 2 to 5 seconds between my boosters, my health pool, and my DM. I'm going to challenge the pocketed Fleta to keep him busy, to keep him off of my team that is explosively pushing a tank as 5. And then, as soon as, that's up, either the tank got away, or whatever was close got away, or it got eliminated, or my team decided that they've been out for 3 seconds and they need the last 2 seconds to get back to cover, that's fine. They go ahead and go, okay, they're going to retreat back into their closed space where they'll be able to stabilize. And as they're retreating, BQB shifts his sights onto Fleta to help continue to check Fleta, since Gargoyle can only check Fleta for a couple seconds between DM boosting at them, falling back towards her team, etc. Like, that's what we're looking for. And then they tuck themselves back into cover. They use their better stabilized resources because they have a BAP, they have a Lucio, those, do nice, good, stabilized healing, etc. And then once they're ready, they push out again and get to do the same thing. Like, that's what we're looking for. And if we want to make things more complicated, we try to throw a Maywell in there, either they're to trap what we're pushing, or to potentially go, hey, let's try and use this to block out Lip's sight line. That's how we'd think about this. This isn't right. What is OG pushing? Well, Gargoyle's contesting the sight lines up here, what are we pushing? The answer is nothing. We're totally off sync. Like our diva is going and doing this thing to contest these guys while these guys are chilling in here. And then OG's like, I guess I'll think about pushing out, and Slime is doing the same thing as Gargoyle's mech is breaking, and there's nothing here to push. This was desynced. Way too desynced. There's not enough of you. You really need to be like 6 for this play to work. But yeah, try to run over Lip. It's the best you got. Lip's on point. You're just slowly going eliminated on point. Okay, that's fine. Group is 6. Group is 6. Okay, you pushed him out. You got to split. There's no reason to be split like this. That, of course, doesn't get Gargoyle because Gargoyle's in the bubble. Gargoyle gets out of the bubble. Okay, this is your chance. What's the play? Who are you actually pushing? OG's got point. Who are the rest of you pushing? No, you're rotating during a beat. Okay, BQB, this is fine. If you wanted to go, we're going to push as a core, we're going to all do this, and we're going to hide one person, our BQB, over here to go do this. This is fine. I would really like to have known who you guys were pushing, though. Right? Okay. Congrats. Won a team fight. Great. Winston's weapon is a leaf blower. Fair enough. Okay. Have self-destruct close on Blizzard and High Noon. Have Nano for Mayhem. Then for the dragons, we've got Nano and Duplicate and self-destruct for our dragons. Okay. Trying to play here to not let them in because they get more map access. Like if they get into the other side of the S turn, they've got too much map control. So you're going to try to force this fight here. Fine with me. They don't really have enough mobility to... They don't really have enough mobility to send like a tracer to point or something. Anyone who goes will get punished. Okay, Fate goes in. So Nano Monkey plus self-destruct engage. Not quite sure what that bubble's about. Not quite sure what that bubble's about at all, actually.
Adaptive circuits engaged.
You're going for the May because you want Blizzard. Okay. You guys are just blowing all your ults for this. Can Flutter get another Blizzard? No. Okay. Yeah, I'm not enthused with the Dragon's Engage. Like, the Dragon's Engage was everybody press Q. another look here. I got distracted with chat. Okay, here we are. Trying to muscle our way in. Void takes out OG, sure. Void is able to finish that with high ground. That's good. So, used your boosters, got him. Still had enough to take high ground. Fate pushes in. Use the Bob. That's not going to bother me remotely at this point. Flutto picks that up. And now you guys should be able to convert this. I don't know about that, Fate. Oh, you're sending in with the Nano Fleta. Okay, then it's fine. It's a big deal. Nano Fleta goes down. Primal didn't really get enough done. Yeah, really struggling to finish here. And obviously we've seen Mayhem have made their own swaps to their own dive comp, we'll call it. Yeah, that's just an engage counting on your ult again. Okay, so Mayhem make the stop. They ultimately join them and play the dive game themselves. But Shanghai were really struggling on that last point there. And most of what they had going, first, they eventually figured out how to play correctly, but the first point wasn't good. Second was mostly just Mayhem surrendering space constantly. Mayhem didn't take a great portion didn't play great for the first portion of third, but when it comes to really finishing off the map, that was something that Dragon struggled with at the end there, in part because I think when they have ults, they use them. There's a little bit of that going on. When they don't have ults, they seem to come up with pretty good plans, or when they're light on ults. But when they have ults, they use them, and I'm not loving that from Dragons. But also, it can be tough to finish maps with dive. I mean, that's not super unknown. Dive in general, when we're in dive metas, tends to be less finish map with giant time bank than we see in brawl metas. Oh, I should catch up on chat. You guys have been going for a while here. Okay, let's take a look. Temporal was so happy when they pushed out Gargle. I was. I should have healed Fate there. Banana. Lobby is 2489. Some people are mid-plat, which tracks down the average, but some are low gold. Nano makes it less likely it'll feed. You guys are talking about first point. Baby Diva does like 250 damage now. They're scary. True. Baby Diva's hard to hit as Winston. No. Um, okay, Winston's burst actually kind of scary there. Kinda. Only if you can jump melee. Jump melee's not hard though. Like that's not a hard tech. I don't know why everyone thought Bob wasn't crazy good until Ash got buffed like crazy. I've always thought Bob was a super good ultimate. He can contest point, does damage, and is an extra 1200 health for your team. All of those things are true. It depends a little bit, though, on what the meta is, what sort of things exist. In metas with Ana, he gets slept pretty reliably. In metas with Zen, he gets blown up pretty darn quickly, and he doesn't have any evasive movement or anything like that. In metas with BAP, okay, sure. In metas with Moira, sure. But we're sort of in, okay, what's the meta type situations for how good is Bob? And, everyone's ult is a little like that. On the wall from, the wall from Yaki Big. Okay. Confirmed the elimination on Mercy with the Diva elimination. Nice. Stop wasting Tim's time with all these insane memes. Hey, no, it's good. You guys are here to have fun. I'm here to have fun. It works out. This works out. If people are memeing it up in chat, let them. If it's too distracting, I just won't read it. You guys know the drill. Okay, so now they've made a change. Well, we don't need to talk about it yet. Fate's on the ball. And that also changes though that they've got it's Yaki on the Zen and Void on the Sigma, as well as Flood on the Tracer. Let's see what Mayhem actually walk out with. They're converting to Brawl. So they didn't like it. Apparently they were going to go for some sort of double bubble poke comp. They didn't like seeing the Zen Ball comp because that's what this is. This is the Zen Ball comp. This is the late 2020 hybrid comp. This, now they're using the Sigma. So Ball, Sigma, Ash, Tracer, Zen, Mercy. This is the late 2020 comp we saw for Contenders, Gauntlet, etc. This is actually the picture perfect version of it. It sometimes used Echo, sometimes used Ash. It used Sigma in the era, and it sometimes used Mercy, sometimes used Brig. So this was it. Since then, it's evolved. The modern Zen Ball comp more often uses Diva instead of Sigma. I'm not convinced that's necessary. I think people have just been slow to go back to Sigma after he got his nerf to his recast time on his barrier partially rolled back. That's been partially rolled back, and I think people have just been slow to go back to him. I think it probably did make sense to go back to him. Maybe not, but it probably did. I'd want to see more testing than I think has been seen, so I'm not surprised to see Dragons trying Sigma again here. But this is this, and they didn't want to play into this on Double Bubble. They feel like, no, either they think this is a good matchup against Double Bubble, or they don't think their Double Bubble is particularly good into it. They into this would instead play their Brawl, it looks like, which is fine. So you say that, Levy, but I just want to remind you that back in the Apex days, not Apex the game, Apex before Apex the game existed, refers to the tournament that probably was the height of Overwatch before OWL, which was the South Korean tournament that, contenders didn't exist yet, but it would have been OWL didn't exist yet. It was considered the thing. We did 4 seasons of Apex, I want to say. And Lunatic High in at least one season had, based on the stats, the best win rate of Kings Row, I think, of anyone in the tournament. And they always played Winston Diva on Kings Row. So, it's not unheard of. It's not unheard of. Okay, so setup here. Cool. How are they splitting their resources? They're splitting their resources a little bit with angles where they've got their Zen plus Sigma here for one poke group, and they have their Mercy plus Ash for the other poke group, but the Mercy's got the flexibility to do both, and is right now even on the Zen. Okay. And then Tracer's got Statue, Ball's got that. Fine. So really it's going to be Ball's job to mess these guys up as they try to... Oh no, Mayhem did stay in the double bubble. Mayhem threw me off a bit there. Okay, I thought I saw them swap Brawl, but they must have changed their mind. Double bubble it is. Okay, so in that case... we're going to expect the monkey to come in. Not double bubble, they have the Diva, I know. In that case, we actually have the better poke from Mayhem, but we probably have the better poke... Well, do we? Zen, Sigma, Ball, Ash, Mercy. That's some pretty good poke. Versus Echo, McCree. Yeah. I mean, there's more to it than this. Ball isn't like a hard poke hero, but he's better at enabling poke than Winston is. Sigma is a better poke hero than Diva, but not like a super better poke hero than Diva. Yeah, still going to be putting dragons for the poke. So the way we're looking at this is dragons are looking to play their poke game. Tracer is very much just going to be shooing off lone targets. Tracer is unlikely to be looking for hard dives. Tracer is instead looking to distract and shoo away targets that are on flanks. Don't let them have angles. Don't let Mayhem have angles, is what they're thinking. Um, Yes. Well, Fate is still going to be doing some, hey, I'm going to knock people into sight lines for our team. Mayhem, on the other hand, is looking to charge their ults. Mayhem are looking to win this by going, nope, once ults are on the board, we are much better. So Dragons would like to actually convert some of these pokes to eliminations, whereas Mayhem are happy for the poke phase to go on as long as they're not leading to eliminations, because that will lead to ults, and they're confident that they're going to win the ult game. They're not remotely worried about hard dives. They can rotate their backline wherever they want. Okay. So it's really going to come down to how well can these guys connect. TNT, ball boops, pile drives, etc., rocks, discord orb, damage boost. How much of this can convert into actual eliminations is going to be the real key. I would think Sigma's way better at poke than D.Va. Her damage is negligible at range. Sort of. Um, yes, you're right. DM is really good. And yes, Sigma's got a barrier. Sigma's got a barrier. Don't get me wrong. Sigma is the better poke hero of the two. DM is really good. Like, being able to have your Widow step out in a Widow duel and have DM cast over her is pretty big. Now, Sigma has its own thing. I might not be being fair. Maybe I should be rating Sigma more highly than I am D.Va in poke battles. I probably should. Um, it's sort of what you run into though, where it's like the trade-off that you sort of run into is the same one that you run into of Orisa is the better poke hero than Ball. Is she though? Is she really? Like, yes, Orisa does more poke damage than Ball, but are you going to get more eliminations for your poke comp based on having a ball that knocks people into the open, that slams people up over shields where they get discorded and mercy boosted headshot? Or are you going to get it by having a shield that your poke heroes can sometimes use but aren't going to use a ton because they want to take their own angles, and have a halt that your team gets to work around? It's not quite that simple. You follow what I'm saying? Where it's like, yes, Orisa's the better poke hero, but which is actually more poke aspect for your team. And Sigma and D.Va kind of run into a similar situation where, yes, Sigma has better poke, though Sigma does have range limitations on his poke too, but D.Va, the ability of D.Va to do some of the can consistently reposition, can consistently take positions that are better for poke than Sigma can. You know, Sigma gets knocked off the high ground, whatever. D.Va retakes the high ground, is threatening. D.Va can get to places to corral the other team. D.Va will get more map strength, etc. Has it. So, like, if you're talking raw poke damage, you're right, but it's a little more complicated than that. And you could say, but D.Va's using her dive elements for that. Well, yeah, but Ball's using his dive elements too for that, and it's still like, would you rather the Ball or the Orisa on the team? And there's arguments for the Orisa depending on the meta, depending on the strength of the relative heroes. But, you know, Ball gets played either as a poke hero or a dive hero, and he's using his dive elements to make him the better poke hero, to make him arguably the better poke hero, I'll say. Maybe Sigma is better on maps without as much high ground, as D.Va can have easier access to high places. That's part of it, yeah. Okay. Fair to say that Sigma's a better poke hero, but D.Va's versatility makes up for her reduced damage. I mean, yeah, that is what it is. That is what it is. Like, Sigma has better poke if we're just thinking of it as poke, but which makes poke comps better, right? Like, we talk about Mercy, and I define her as a poke hero, but Mercy's actual poke isn't a thing. It's not actually her blaster. It's her ability to go, hey, I can make other poke heroes better, kind of like Ball makes other poke heroes better, with damage boost and with res. Like, those are both great in poke matchups. Res gets the most value in poke matchups because against dive, reses can be covered more easily. Against brawl, reses are almost impossible to pull off because, brawl can very easily cover what it did. Dive can organize to cover what it just did in terms of eliminations. So, like, we call her a poke hero in part because of res. You see what I'm saying? Where it's like, wait a second. Okay. Um, yes. Yes. Hey, don't sleep on the Mercy Blaster. Okay. Okay, Diva contesting ball. Monkey joins, that'll force the ball back. Tracer's holding his area. That's fine. OG didn't take much damage there, so that's not going to be much ult charge for Anna. But Anna's doing okay on ult charge. Void getting overwhelmed a little. OG takes a little more there, but shouldn't be in any threat of going down. They have done a better job of corralling the space, which is good. I mean, these tanks have been doing a good job of corralling the space without allowing much opportunity for their squishies to be comboed on with, discords, TNTs, mercy boosts, rocks, etc. Which is what dragons would more be looking for. Retake some space there with the Zen Sigma team. Fate can't figure it. That's not going to work well for you, Fate. Fate's just, yeah, Fate's throwing. Not your best map, Fate. Okay. That pulls the backline away, but as the backline's being pulled away, it's not like Zen and Sigma are getting eliminations on them. Where's that high noon? Okay. There's the nano. This is your play. You get trans. And pulse bombed. Okay, that's a big deal. And they should easily reestablish their map control now. Oh, unless Fate gets caught. Ah, Fate! You're... Okay. They can't hold point anymore. Like, Mayhem can kind of just turtle on point. Their comp isn't great at turtling, but OG's going to reuse Primal. Used Nano to get the trans. Second time goes in with Primal and is able to finish that. Remember, this is the Mercy version of the comp. They've brought the Mercy to help out Lip as opposed to the Brig, which means that there's worse peel for Izayaki here. Mercy still peels for Izayaki, but there's worse peel than Briggs compared to what it does against dive heroes. And that is going to mostly be a wrap. Fate's back. Temporal makes doing taxes not such a bore. Okay, okay. I'm glad the distraction that isn't too distracting to stop you from doing them helps. I'm okay filling that niche. Okay. I'm not convinced I believe that this retake is real. Yeah.
60 seconds.
Yeah, I didn't really think that retake had much shot. I'm not convinced I'd have invested mines in that. Mayhem need to finish this. Still not convinced I'd have invested the high noon in it, but whatever. Okay. Peel Princess versus the Peel Queen. Anna's not getting gravitated to points. His attackers take it. This might be Masters. Oh boy. Okay. So we see Tracers taking map control. We see that they've already taken map control with Yaki and Ochi over here for the Mayhem. It looks like they'll be ready to pull the trigger faster on Mayhem side, but that might be okay because if Mayhem do their explosive push in here and here, it'll just turn into these guys coming back from here, and this will be the fight. If they wait a little bit longer before they pull the trigger, if you pull the trigger now, if Mayhem aggressively force the fight now, that's not going to be good for Dragons. They are.
Adaptive circuits.
But that pulse bomb will do it.
Winston.
Big pulse bomb from Fleta gets both of the backliners, even though if Mayhem pulled the engage timing at the right... Oh, but it's enough. Pulling that engage trigger at the right time was enough to end the fight, even though that pulse bomb effectively went for both backliners. Okay. Forces their way through to second, and let's see, are they going to make a real contest here? Self-destruct. Or excuse me, one self-destruct. Tank ults from Florida. And then the rally versus trans. Okay, everybody press Q. Self-destruct and nano. Don't overwonder, Fate. Don't overwonder. You're fine. You don't need to get the limb yourself. There you go. Okay. Now, where are Shanghai gonna hold? Are they gonna stack on cart like that because they're worried about it, or are they willing to go take some map control? Looks like something resembling map control. That's an interesting place for Fate, but he's got Primal. Okay. What are you doing? I don't think so, Fate. I don't think so. Your team's never going to engage far enough forward for that to be a good idea. That's not some amazing engage. Like, in some ways, it's angle, 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 angle. But it's not really, because what it really turns into is this funnels this into one angle. This is effectively alone. This can't really contribute. These guys can literally choose to just go, we're only going to fight your tanks. And then it's tanks with a little bit of Izayaki support. Izayaki can't even shoot his opponents, but can just Harmony Orb his tanks. Versus this, and it'll take Fleta forever to push up. This is not a particularly good engage from the Dragons here. Even with Rally. Like, great. Brig plus tanks. And Fate's late and doesn't have jump. And Yaki goes down, or Fleta goes down to Yaki. Yeah. That was a very lackluster engage. Fate's gonna Primal. Now are they gonna find the split over there? You don't really need that trans yet, but okay. sending away the Nano Monkey with the Primal.
This.
Okay, they turn it. Okay, they turned it. Fine. So be it.
Victory.
I'm not super impressed with it, but even though they had the bad engage, even though they lost someone to their Fleta to start the fight, they were able to sort of kite, stabilize, and then they got an elimination with their primal. They also used the back half of their primal to keep the nano from getting much done. They had their trans going, giving them power, and they're able to turn it. Okay, so that's sort of enough for Kings Row there. I think we'll go into our sort of overall evaluation of the teams here. Dragons won this 3-0. Dragons look like the better team, so that's good. Dragons do look like the better team. Dragons won. That's not wild. This was the semifinals, I believe. And hey, we're good with it. So great. If we look at in terms of team-wide issues, do I really want to talk about that? Yeah, so like I don't like dragons everybody press Q stuff a little bit. They get a little too into, hey, we'll just use our Qs to engage. We'll use lots and lots of Q when it's not like really strengthening what they're doing. It's like we're using our Q to cheat ourselves into an engage to skip steps a little bit when we have too many Qs. And sometimes even when they have one Q. Now, occasionally they make a good plan and it works great, or maybe they don't make a good plan and it just works great, like they did with that Nano Fleta. But it'll be like we have one ult, self-destruct. I guess we're engaging with self-destruct. That's a little too simplistic. We can do a little bit better than that. And then we saw a bad engage here. I'd say it wasn't the only bad engage we saw. We saw a failure to understand how to take the map control to engage there. That said, Mayhem had map control issues too when it came to Hanamura, where they went and did all that to get their map control and then just threw it away, etc. That said, we did have pretty good re-engages on both sides. Obviously, Dragons get the crown for that, for what they were able to do on Hanamura, but we honestly did have some pretty good re-engage fights on both sides of this. And it's not like Dragons re-engages were always perfect. So yeah, I'm okay with this from a team perspective. I liked seeing the diversity of what got played. I liked seeing the Orisa comp. If I look at individual players and sort of what stood out, the good and the bad, Fleta had a poor moment that we really paid attention to, but obviously did a lot of work on the Echo, did more work, I'd say, than Yaki did. The Yaki's Echo certainly looked solid. Yaki's May, however, had a good ice wall on third here, but in general was not a fan. Maybe that's a team strategy thing. It's wrong if it is, but Yaki's May was that the wall difference was big and noticeable, and it's gonna be hard to win Brawl v Brawls when your May's behind like that. So that's definitely stood out as a bit of a we don't like this. Um, Lip I have mixed feelings about. Lip had really good neutral play. Lip had good bobs, but Lip's high noons were just not impressive to me. BQB probably wasn't quite as strong in the neutral, but had the better high noon, so I'll also give that sort of a type look where we go, yeah, that's okay. That could have been better. That could have been worse. I would look if I was Lip to go, okay, team, because it's not just a Lip thing, it's a team understanding how to use High Noon. Let's go ahead and get those upgraded because Lip did open up some fights nicely, more consistently than BQB did. Fate, not your best day, Fate. Not your best day. I've definitely seen better days from Fate. So, not really in love with that. Um, yeah, I mean, Fate I've seen have a good ball in the past. I'd say Fate, when ball first came out, Fate was probably one of the top three ball players. Here, that ball was feeding a bit. We had the Winston jump that was just atrocious. And aha, we've got map control, and with that I immediately jump. No, 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 let your team actually consolidate that map control, and well, what are you doing? Um, so yeah, not going to be in love with that. Didn't pay close enough attention to our diva play on either side, really. Probably going to have to look at that more closely. Um, Liked Lee Jagon's Mercy play by and large. That was looking pretty good. Anything else over here? I had the nano that didn't go into slime that I was very disappointed about, but that's not enough for me to really be super critical. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to do in terms of my, things that jumped out to me that I want to comment on about the individual players. Because obviously, when I'm doing these team things, I'm not actually watching all 12 individual players and trying to evaluate them. That's much more of a thing that I do for the other video series, which is the pro player reviews. Okay. If you guys have questions about anything, this match, this, stuff, anything that you saw here, please throw them up in chat now. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe. I really do appreciate that, and it helps me out quite a bit. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, see what sort of promos, special events we have going on, all that good stuff. So let's catch up on chat. Rally the Trans. Rally Trans is tanky to say the least. Yeah, it is. You don't usually do both. You could answer one with the other. Overwatch looks like LOL when you view it from above. A little bit, especially in more brawly metas. If only everyone had the same field of view as in League. There. So dragons are the plats and mayhem is the golds. Fair. Like I said, Mayhem really should have gone Lucio Brig here. Easy win with that comp. There's really only been one team that's consistently ran Lucio Brig well. I swear the win rate of a team going into a fight with 6 ults is less than 50%. It might be. It might be. Temporal, what SR do you give this game? Owl guess the SR. I mean, if I'm serious, what SR do I give this game? Like, I'm gonna call 4600 the cap SR that can be given to an owl game right now, because even though in theory it could be 5k, it's not, and you're not actually looking at teams of players where everyone could be 4700. It does not seem to be possible for, even though you can't all occupy 4700 at the time, blah blah blah, it doesn't seem like enough players are consistently capable of getting, and it doesn't seem like enough players in L are capable of getting to 4700. We've seen L players, we've seen contenders players get to the 4700 range, but I'm not convinced that everyone on every team can do that. So I'm going to consider 4600 the best that we could see out of L play. So I'll consider that the maximum. This wasn't that. This definitely wasn't that. Um, most high GM lobbies really tend to cap out around like 4300, 4400. 4400 is a pretty high lobby for GM, for what you actually get. Like, you'll get players at and above those SRs, but for the total of the lobby, it tends to be lower. We know what a 4400 game looks like. This did look better than a 4400 game, but this is certainly not the cap. This is certainly not the cap of L play. And I mean, like, I don't mean like the best it could possibly be. I mean like the best that we've seen this season, in a previous season, etc. Relatively clean, but not amazing. I don't know. Let's give this if 4600 would be like peak shock, peak shock is probably closer to 4700. I'm not doing that. I'm considering 4700 the max because we've seen it even if every team isn't capable of it. And 4400 is about as good as we see for a ladder lobby. I don't know, something in the like 4475 to 45 50 range, something in there. That's where I'd consider this. I'm not saying these guys are like only a tiny bit better than the best ladder games we see. Like I kind of am, but I'm not really saying that. This was a pretty good, this was a pretty reasonable owl game. This was a pretty reasonable owl game. We know this is the semifinals, etc. But I'm a harsh critic because I'm always a harsh critic. So, and you don't see very many 4400 games. Like 4400 games tend to be like there's 9 owl players or there's 9 pro players in it, mix of owl and contender type things. So like I don't know. This is probably not the right answer, but if I have to do this on the spot, this is not, the peak owl that we'd call it right here. That's not what this is. It's not bad owl. I could go higher. I could put this in like a I don't want to break 4600 for this though, because this is not like approaching peak either. This is good, but it's not approaching peak. So maybe I should be this to like 4590, but like I'm probably not breaking 4600 for this. We've certainly seen meaningfully better owl games from both sides. Okay. I swear the red. Okay. Owl against the SR. Well, that's a cool question actually. Yeah, no, it kind of was. Um enough with the nerd math. Okay, not bad. Showed us the keys to his Maserati. Cool, cool, not cool. Are you a harsh critic on yourself too? I mean, you sort of have to be to keep getting better. You kind of have to be a harsh critic on yourself to keep getting better. That's just how it works. And at things that I care to get better at, yeah, I'm a harsh critic on myself. Uh, Okay. Okay. There we go. So I think that's going to do it. I will do more Overwatch stuff today, but I'll probably take a break, figure out lunch, etc. before that. So if you have any questions, throw them up now. Final reminder: like, subscribe if you're here, if you're enjoying the content. If you have a question in the future, you can throw it down below in the comments. Maybe I'll jump to it, though I might not remember the entirety of the match. So you guys know the drill. Um, Life advice and Overwatch advice. Yeah, I'll do both of those. I'll do both of those. Okay. Thanks, guys. Temporal out.